Right. Hi, welcome to Ghost Heads UK podcast. And what a special podcast we've got today, live on YouTube. We've got some very good guests with this. And my screen's gone back behind me. That's how live we are. TV's gone off.
It's never a mistake when it's live, though. It's all just impromptu. That's all.
I know. I was just thinking, why has that just turned itself off? It never turns itself off. It's like an old battered PC. It's just running. I've got it off my son, so I use it for like video. Oh, look, there you go. How spooky is that?
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, that is weird because the picture with the video was like on autoplay. Look at that. The ins and outs of doing a live podcast in there. Right. So we've got some fantastic guests. We're going to be talking. I've got. Oh, Liam's dropped off. Oh, he's back again. Hold on. Here he goes. Oh, he's plugging himself in. Look at that. Yeah. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about Frozen Empire, the latest installment of Ghostbusters, which is quite a strange time at the moment, isn't it? Because in 1984, you could go to the cinema and see Dune and Ghostbusters. And it's 2024, and you could go to the cinema and see Dune and Ghostbusters. It's like being in the 80s all over again. Now, is it the same as the 80s? That's the thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go around the table, introduce yourselves, guys, and we'll kick off with what you've been doing, and have you seen it? Basically, go on then, Dan. You first, mate.
Yeah, I'm Dan. So I've seen the film 9 times so far. 9th time was earlier today. I wanted to make sure it was fresh in my mind before we were doing this. So yeah, that kind of gives you an answer of what I thought of the film in itself, I guess.
Yeah. I'm just okay. Just for Liam, you're in every preview, mate.
Yeah, I feel like I should be paying like 89p a minute for this call, actually, right now, like from Liam, you know, like.
Yeah.
Well, if you really want me to
started with an 0891 call, you know. So.
If you're really that interested in what I've got on, I'm quite happy to tell you.
No.
So Dan, welcome to the podcast. We've been speaking on and off for the last week or two, and did you say you've just been see it, or how many times?
Yeah, I just got back. I saw it again today. It was like my 9th time today. So
God, no time. Right, and we've got Fern. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, everybody.
Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi. Right. Well, I have only been, obviously I've been into Ghostbusters all my life. When the film came out in 84, I was 11 years old. Yes, I am that old. And I went to the cinema and saw it 6 times when I was a kid, which was probably unheard of back then. And like you say, June was on at the same time, but I was never a June girl. It was always Ghostbusters. And I've always been fascinated with the paranormal and everything as a kid. And it sort of put me as a little bit of an outsider, I suppose, because I was a bit weird and a bit geeky. But when Ghostbusters came out, it was kind of like, hey, this is a film that actually gets me. As a person, whereas everybody thinks you're a bit of a weirdo. So yeah, I've only been cosplaying though for about just over a year now, and I'm based in Kent. And at the moment, I was with the real Kent Ghostbusters, but I'm not at the moment. I've taken time to step back because I've got other projects which I think you know about that I might be trying to sort out. But that'll come. That's another episode. And you lot are all ahead of me because I've only seen Frozen Empire twice, and that was first time in normal 2D, and then I went to see it in 4DX last week as well, which was awesome.
Was it? Hold on, we'll get back to those. We'll get back to that because I've not seen it for weeks. Liam, go ahead. Now, Liam is, I have to say, he's part of my team, the Yorkshire Ghostbusters. Go on then, Liam.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them. My love for Ghostbusters has been all my life. I was 1 when Ghostbusters come out, so really it shouldn't have been for me. It weren't until I was about 5, and obviously with resurgence at cartoon and everything, and all merchandise come out. I just remember it being an absolute phenomenon. Everybody, I remember vivid memory when I was a kid. We used to go to like parties, kids' parties, and we'd be sat around watching Ghostbusters. You know, it would crackers and everyone's going out all stuff and all that. And then it just kind of grew from there, and everyone else sort of drifted away from it, but I've always stuck to it. And as I've got older, it's got more and more prevalent. And then when films come back out again, it was like, this is amazing. And I've got my first pack, and it was just brilliant. And it's just being part of a group and going out and entertaining people and just putting smile on people. It's just fantastic, and it's just such a welcoming, inclusive. Anybody can be a Ghostbuster, and that's what I love about it. Is from even someone coming out with just a cardboard box on the back that they've painted on, to someone who's got all singing, all dancing, and that I just love it. I love the fact that everyone can get involved, and it's just it's exciting times being franchise. It really is.
Yeah, I have to agree. Just quickly, because I'm also monitoring the chat as well. About your heavy breathing, Liam, somebody posted, cheaper than OnlyFans, is this? Leeds 106. Yeah. And also we've got Medside Ghostbusters evening, everyone. Evening to the Medside Ghostbusters. Thanks for coming in. And the Welsh Ghostbusters have also joined in. Even all, love the jacket, Jamie. Thank you very much. I got this bad boy off Amazon, I think it's so. Yeah, there it is. And I had to glue this on myself, and because I just couldn't stitch it. Do you remember me posting it on Facebook? I was like, God damn! I tried stitching it on, I couldn't. But I quite like this, but because I did get a 8th Logistics jacket sent to me. Also, there was a competition. Should be finding out who won it tomorrow, hopefully. And it didn't fit me, so I gave it to another one of our group members, Michael, who goes out trooping it. It looks fantastic in it. He was the guy that was in all my photos that I took of it. So yeah, and we've got a couple of us. My good friend. I've got Pete. Now I saw Pete down at the premiere down in London. He's awesome. He was actually rocking my podcast t-shirt. We've got Eve as well. Eve's joined us.
Well, that's me.
Oh, was that you?
That's me, yeah.
All right. Okay, Dad.
So I very much joined you.
You very much have. And we've also got a Ghostbusters collector. Now he's put in a comment here saying, I was so disappointed with Frozen Empire. I thought it was overstuffed, convoluted and boring. Well, we're going to get onto that. We're going to get onto, all of it, really. And also, Medside Ghostbusters, love my 8th Logistics coat. It came in very useful when the rain came down on Good Friday during the promo event. Yeah, we love it. We love it. Right. So now, Fern, you posted on Facebook, didn't you, about a trip to a firehouse down where you was. And unfortunately, it fell apart, didn't it? But hopefully, you'll be getting it back together, won't you?
Yeah, as usual, there's always council hoops that you've got to jump through to get events up and running in the local community.
Yeah.
And there was a mistaken belief. They got my hopes up. I went to see the firehouse. I did the video that probably a lot of people have seen on the Ghostbusters UK fan page. And I did the tour. They let me do that. We discussed dates, etc. Then the next thing I know, I'm getting sort of a WhatsApp message from the lady who sort of deals with all the events there, saying, oh, well, to do a public event, it will take 14 weeks, to get it through the council. But apparently there was a lot of confusion. So apparently it only takes 14 weeks for you to get at the minimum notice to shut off the road outside.
Really?
Yeah, which a minimum of, and a lot of money, because you have to get the notices up like a week in advance to shut in the road, which costs money, then actually shutting the road, which costs more money. And I wanted to make it as, it sounds really awful, but as cheaply done as possible, because I want as much money to go to Great Ormond Street Hospital as possible for the event. And obviously, like I say, I spoke to Eric Reich briefly on Messenger. He absolutely loved the idea. He watched my video. He absolutely loved it. And again, like me, thought this is a golden opportunity that I don't want to pass up. And if I can fight to get this through and get it happening, then I will, because it's literally just down the road from me. And And it's kind of like still got the green tiles inside, and it's got the wooden lockers, and it's got the doors at the back where you can open up and do the "We're ready to believe you" and all that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
what I want to do is make it like an immersive experience to celebrate the 40th anniversary, but just the whole franchise thing that's still popular to this day, you know.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's got, you know, before I did the cosplay and everything, I didn't realize what a massive fan base there actually is, especially in the UK. I
Yes.
just think it's brilliant, and I just think it's great when we've gone to events together, and all met up. It is just like one big GB family, and I
Yeah.
absolutely love that sort of, it's crazy, but it's like
It is.
so
It is.
brilliant.
It's
Um,
like what Liam says. You know, when it comes to cosplaying as a Ghostbuster, I believe, where you got like your Star Wars 501st that have got to be, it's got to look legit. I
yeah.
believe that anyone can be a Ghostbuster. I think you'll agree with me on this one, Liam, don't you? That it doesn't matter if you got a cardboard box on your back, you can troop with us. You know what I mean? I do not mind how you do it, what you want. If you want to make believe you've got a backpack on, then I'll totally believe you. You know what I mean? There's loads of options, and that's what I like about the Ghostbusters community. Don't you lot agree?
That's the other thing as well, is that you go to an event and you could be there and looking around thinking, oh, I've not seen anyone yet. And you'll just catch someone, you'll just see a flashing light going, hang on a minute. And then you'll go around a corner and you've got an instant connection with somebody. And you don't really get that in anything else. I've never seen it, like you're saying, in terms of how the fandom is. I've never seen, even like, it's probably the only one I could say on par is sort of Star Wars with some of the people that meet up. But in terms of actual the community unison and how everyone rallies together, I've never seen it like this. It's phenomenal. When people get together in community, they can make things happen. It's brilliant.
Yeah. I must admit, it's proper in the zeitgeist at the moment, isn't it? Oh, do you know, boxes just fell over. Conspiracy in this room. Box just fallen over. Oh, I've been in the attic all day long. And stuff has been falling over in the attic. I'm like, oh God, what's happening up here? Actually, I put some plastic bags on hanging from a hook because I've been cleaning up there. And for a brief moment, I turned around and there was a Halloween mask that was just not on the hook, but just behind it. And I totally crapped myself. I thought there was someone standing there. I was like, God, that instant, you think, but it went.
Yeah.
It was just myself. Yeah. So Dan, so you say you've been to see it how many times? 9 times, you say?
Ninth time was today. Yeah.
9th time. Is there anything you've missed?
I don't think so. I don't appear to really be seeing anything new. It's more a case of I work in the entertainment industry. I have a passion for the entertainment industry. And one of those things is cinema. So I follow the business of entertainment, and specifically, well, not specifically, but one of the specifics is cinema itself. So, I'm looking at how the business of the movie is doing. And the answer is not well. And so because of that, I kind of feel like this, and then looking at the cast, and then looking at the kind of personalities, the type of people that are involved, and the decisions that they may have with regards to going forward. And because of that, I kind of feel that this may be the last time that I get to spend time with characters that I love.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I'm just making the most of spending time with those characters, because while I wouldn't say there won't be another Ghostbusters movie with this cast. If you said, Dan, right now you have to say yes or no, and there's no, we'll see, I would be more gambling at no. I don't believe there'll be another Ghostbusters movie with this cast based on the business performances of this film.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing is, the critical response was brutal, but we kind of knew that was going to be that way based on what the critical response to Afterlife was. But they went especially brutal. So just comparing, looking at that, and then the fact that it doesn't have the audience score that Afterlife has, and then looking at this from a business perspective, like I say, I don't believe that. I'm not convinced there will be another one, and because of that, I just got to spend as much time as I can with characters that I care about as much as I do, and so I will keep going to see this in as many different formats. I've seen it in ScreenX, Super Screen, you know, obviously 4DX, which was one of the best 4DX experiences. If there were people that didn't, oh, it was incredible. If there were people that didn't know any better, that you could probably convince them that this film was made specifically with 4DX in mind, because it is that I see a lot. I mean, I go to the pictures a lot. I've already been to the pictures 37 times so far this year. So like I'm regularly going. And this and I do this all the time. So I see a lot of 4DX films. This is one of the very, very best, and not in a because it's constantly going, but because it times everything perfectly. It uses everything that 4DX has to use brilliantly. It is a phenomenal 4DX experience, and it's heartbreaking as well that it was really only in wide release in 4DX for a week, because you had Godzilla, Kong, and Kung Fu Panda coming out the following week. If there's one thing that I take from the release of this, is I have no understanding why Sony felt the need to release this film in March. It is a loaded month of films that target the same kind of audience, and the only thing I can think of is they just want extra earnings for Q1 in their Q1 earnings report. But yeah, that's the reason why I keep going. As much as, you know, like, it's not a perfect film, it is a flawed movie. It comes across as being rushed. Some of the ADR is terrible in it, but I love it, and I love these characters, and I believe the new characters are Ghostbusters as well, and I'm just all in.
Well, yeah, I want to get into nitpicks towards the end, sort of thing. You know, I really wanted to go and see it in 4DX. When it was Afterlife came out, me, Michael Norton, and Paul, we went to see it in this 3-screen version of it. So
ScreenX.
Yeah, and it was awful. It was just projected on 2 walls in the middle, and it was only certain scenes.
Sorry, do you mean of the new one, or did you say Afterlife? Sorry.
Afterlife.
Right, okay, because I saw this in ScreenX as well, and it wasn't good either. It was rushed.
Yeah.
It kept freezing on one of them. Not good. I feel you on this.
Yeah, and because Michael was going to book tickets, and we went, no, let's not bother with that. Now, when we went down to see the premiere, Gil came on stage, and he said it was a year to the day for that premiere that they started filming. A year. And I remember going, God, is that it? Just a year? Really? From start to finish, all the effects, you know, and I'm sitting here watching it.
That's what I mean, though. Did you not feel like it was unnecessary for them to rush this? Like, I don't get why it was released in March, because it didn't look polished, and the cutting was pretty bad.
There was some edits that I was thinking that were very, very strange, very, very strange. Liam, where did you see yours? Where did you see it?
I saw it at Meadowhall, at VUE at Meadowhall.
Yeah.
My initial thing, obviously, I'm a Ghostbusters fan through and through. I will go and support it no matter what happens with it. I'll go there, but I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. I never felt bored. However, I'm very much of the opinion that it did feel rushed. It were almost as if. You ever watch Red Letter Media where they were going on about Star Wars Last Jedi, where they're saying we can't stop, we've got to keep going. It felt like that. It just felt like it didn't take time to just stop and breathe and think, right, what's this character doing? Where are they going? What's happening here? It just like, right, we're finished with them now. We've got to go on to them. And it were almost as if it were. I felt dizzy towards the end. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. And then when we got to the very end part of it, and it were just big build up, and then boom, done. I'm like, oh, okay, right. So that's it. All right, fair enough. And that were it for me. I mean, obviously we had that dialogue over messages, and I was just kind of like, I don't get so much choices in this. I enjoyed it. I did not enjoy it, but some of the choice, I very much feel that film could have been a bit of an endgamey type thing, where it could have been over 2 films, and it really built that baddie up to be a really, he's a massive threat. He's worse than Gozer. He's a big, big threat. But it kind of like they built it up in space at film, and then it was just, oh, he's done. Oh, right, okay. and that was the thing that really spoiled it. For everything else, I could have let go, but that really, I just thought, nah, that's
well. Funny enough, when you was telling me about that end game, when I read it on the text, I was thinking, God damn it, Liam, you should have wrote that. That sounded so good. Basically, like Liam's just said, it takes a couple of films because this guy, because you've got to remember, all the adverts pointed that this guy was the big bad. You know what I mean? Is anyone seen the pitch meeting, the latest pitch meeting on YouTube?
We have a rule in our house that we don't watch pitch meeting unless we all watch it together.
Yeah,
and my kids have been like staying in different places, so we haven't watched it yet.
I have to say, Ryan George he's done a cracking episode for the Frozen Empire, but he does really.
I did say when I wrote my review of the film, I was like, they've given Ryan George a lot to work with for pitch meeting.
My device has gone down. Yeah, they have. Do you know what I mean? It was such a good one. Fern, you've seen it in 4DX as well. Yeah, your experience was pretty cool.
Yeah. So the first time I watched it in 2DX, it's pretty much all of the above what you're saying. I mean, I suffer from vertigo and migraines, and by the end of it, I just thought I was having an attack because it was just like boom, 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 boom. But it's like that story's going there, that story's going there. Quick, flick back to that story, and it's like, oh my god, this is so chaotic. It's like it's not even organized chaos. But 4DX, I mean, I went to see Afterlife in 4DX as well, and I loved that. That was pretty hair raising. But this, there were more kind of whether it's because 4DX has kind of evolved over the last couple of years since Afterlife, I don't know. But for me, they threw more effects at you. I mean, there was fog coming out. There was more sort of water. There was more sort of things touching your legs, stuff like that.
And did you feel like the pacing issues that there are in 2D don't really exist in the 4DX, because we get the Ecto one going at times. The use of the wind and the temperature controls was just right there. So all the pacing things that are in the 2D version just don't seem to exist, do they? In the 4DX, it goes so much more smoother.
You really don't notice it as much in the 4DX. No. It's just like going on a ride or something, like at Universal. That's probably what I'd compare it to.
Is it edited differently for 4DX?
No, it's all the same. It's just they've timed everything beautifully. That's why I say I think if you could convince people that don't know any better that this film, like some films are shot specifically for IMAX, I think you could convince people this film was shot for 4DX.
The last 4DX I went to see was RoboCop and Aliens at the American Adventure Park.
Wow.
Yeah, there was some time ago, I must admit. I don't know where there is a 4DX near us up here. Do you know, Liam? Do you know?
Yeah, Centertainment at Medwall Retail Park. That's got 4DX.
Ah, right.
You may need to travel because Godzilla, Kong, and Kung Fu Panda are both in 4DX. So most cinemas that have 4DX capabilities have given up the Ghostbusters movie to that. But Leicester Square Cineworld is doing one showing a day of Ghostbusters in 4DX, and that's where I'm going to be going next week for go once or twice. I want to experience this again. In 4DX, it is that good.
It's definitely well worth the money, because I had a lot of people sort of saying to me on the Ghostbuster pages, is it worth seeing it? Because it's like 19 quid a ticket. I mean, you want to know if it's worth it, and I would say 100% absolutely.
This is why I'm grateful to have a Cineworld card. So I can keep going and going and going.
That helps a lot. I've just showed Med size. I think I should have shown this one for 4DX was an option at our cinema, and the IMAX screens were all brought up by Dune. There were a lot of customers at the cinema seeing Dune again, then going back in for Ghostbusters. And then, of course, I think that really hurt the box office potentially. Yeah, going up against Dune. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Dune is doing so well in the UK specifically as well. That weekend, Dune still outgrossed Ghostbusters in the UK. Now, a lot of that is because now it had really no 2D screenings. But obviously, the IMAX screenings are premium format screenings.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, as Fern said, you are paying more whenever you go to see these premium format screenings. And I was at Leicester Square for the super screening showing of Frozen Empire, which is as close to an IMAX screen as you could get in this country, because IMAX was, as rightly said, was completely taken up by Dune Part 2. And I walked into Dune Part 2 as it was filling up for one of the showings. It was packed, rammed. I wish I could say the same thing about Frozen Empire, but it was bare. The busiest I've seen of the 9 screenings that I've seen of Frozen Empire so far was actually today.
Was it?
Because of it being Easter Sunday, and of course all the kids are off. The second busiest was when I saw it on Friday. These have been the busiest I saw. I saw it 4 times over the opening weekend. None of them were as busy as what this past Friday and today was.
I thought that it'd probably be busier today because the BBC played Afterlife yesterday on ITV. On the BBC. And I remember turning on and going,
I think they played all 4 across their BBC channels.
Oh, did they? Because I turned on and went, oh, my God, is it been that long that it's on TV already? Do you know what I mean? Because I remember years ago when I was a kid and then saw Star Wars on TV and I was like, what? What is this? But I suppose, as time moves on, they've got to get them onto TV, onto the terrestrial channels as quickly as possible.
Well, it used to be 6 months from cinema to rental, and then another 6 months from rental to Sky, and then it had to be a 1 to 2 years, dependent on the movie, before terrestrial could actually show it. And now you look at it, it's on DVD a few weeks later, almost, it feels sometimes. It's crazy.
Yeah, I must admit, I've already pre-ordered the 4K Steelbook edition from Zavi. I mean, except for I've got it. I've got to get it. I know because we were going to sort of like, because I know we're getting into the negatives of it, and I do really want to get into the negatives of it because there's a lot. But I also have to say to everyone who's watching that we are fans. We love it. We're not toxic. We love the film. We want to see more, but we won't be doing our jobs, you know what I mean, if we didn't do a little bit of nitpicking. To be fair, you can nitpick the best films that win Oscars. You can still nitpick them. But so when people listen to this, please don't take it as we hated it. We don't. We'll be certainly covering a lot about it. So right, because Liam had he sent me so much about it, and I was like, do you know, I'm just going to copy and paste this and put it on Letterboxd as a review because there was so much of it. And everything he said, I was thinking, God damn, I thought that as well. Because who thought here that, for one thing, they showed far too much in the trailers? Who thought that?
Oh, God, yes. Yes. It's just like you watch. How many trailers did they bring out? Something like 6, if you want to count the trailer in Japan as well.
TV spots as well. They were whacking them out like a couple of days towards the end. And
I think everybody was saying though at that time, weren't they, before the film even came out, is there anything actually left for the film to watch when it comes out?
A lot, because most of the trailers weren't even in the film.
Yeah,
exactly.
What was that about?
Exactly.
The other thing as well, especially being in UK, one thing I found is we're kind of left out, and the hype for the film is made by fans, whereas in America and places like they've got these popcorn buckets and this that and other, and we have to scour country just to find a drinks cup. And you think that in itself, to me, it pulls you out of it a bit. If they had all that build up and you can collect these and you can go there and you can it rally everyone together, and it never felt like that. I mean, like last when Afterlife come out, I got an email from Sony Pictures literally out of blue, and it's like these days you're thinking that's not legit. There's no way that's legit. So I didn't answer it, and then it come out again saying, "Do you really want to go to this premiere?" And then I've looked on community and thought, few people have got this. This is legit. And just, I mean, I know you went to it, didn't you? You went to the premiere of it. And I got flu and I couldn't go. But by that point, it already passed. I'm like, God, I could. And then you look at what happens in America, and they've got Firehouse built up. And I know it's always set in New York.
Yeah.
So the difference is, though, and it's a horrible thing, because when you're in any kind of community, it feels like the community is is huge. But sadly, the Ghostbusters fandom is massively dominated by the North American audience. And when you're looking the numbers, when you look at the numbers, they can't back that up. That's where it all comes from, and it's heartbreaking but I think the difference, and I think what people miss, was although the fandom for Ghostbusters over here, because we're still the second biggest market, although there is a massive gap between us and North America, obviously, is the Ghostbusters fans go out of their way, and the Ghostbusters fans will collect. So I'm looking at all of the, especially Kung Fu Panda has got all the merch really in the cinemas at the moment. There is so much Kung Fu Panda merch, it's ridiculous. And I'm just looking at the demand for that versus the seeming demand for the Ghostbusters stuff. And I'm just like, they'd have done better putting Ghostbusters stuff, because even though there's far less of us, the fact is we are more likely to be going and purchasing this. And the Ghostbusters fans, for a lot of us, we're all 30s, 40s, 50s. So therefore, we're in more likelihood of an income situation to go and purchase these things, as opposed to a child asking their parents if they can buy the Kung Fu Panda drink at £10 or £12 or what it is. So I do think that, it's one of those things where people sometimes mistake the numbers of popularity versus what they can get in terms of investment. I think that's what happened with a lot here, because I do think they'd have done better having more Ghostbusters merch. But I can also understand why, looking at it purely from a numbers perspective, why they went the way they went.
Yes, yeah. I went to see it at the View. I took my family to see it at the View, and I asked the guys there, "Have you got any merchandise for Ghostbusters?" They went, they just gave me this dumb look. No, but there were loads for Kung Fu Panda. I was like, "Good luck on them, mate." Good luck on them.
I did a Ghostbusters obviously cosplay for the opening weekend at my tiny local independent cinema, like the Carlton Cinema, which is a hub of the community sort of thing. And it's still like one of them old-fashioned cinemas that you go into. They all dress in the waistcoats and everything. And I did a stint there on the Saturday of the opening weekend, and I actually said to them, "Have you got no Ghostbusters merch?" They went, "Oh no, but we're getting all the Kung Fu Panda next week." This is a tiny, not much money. It's not a multi-million-pound company, but they said they know that they'd probably sell the Ghostbuster cups, but the outlay for buying them in would be too much. They can't afford like the initial money to go and buy them, even though they know that they'll make money back on them in time. But it was having that money to just give to whoever the wholesaler was and say, "I want all these cups for our cinema." It would have been too much for them to purchase them in the first place, which is a real shame. Like
It
we're saying.
was. Yeah.
So that is Sony potentially then charging too much, I guess, on the licensing of Ghostbusters merchandise, as opposed to DreamWorks with regards to Kung Fu Panda, or whomever it is behind that element of merchandise for the Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah. When we went to see Ghostbusters at the showcase, of course they had the cups, and when I looked at the cups, the toppers, I thought, are they just reused the Afterlife cup tops? That's what I thought originally. Then I says, how much for one? And they wouldn't sell me one separately. I had to get the meal deal, which was $15.99 for the cup, a very small bag of popcorn, and something else. And I just went, I'm not paying that. I says, can I not just buy the cups? And they went, oh no, you got to buy the lot. And I was like, no. I says, that's just not happening, mate. I thought, nah. I'll rather speak to getting contact with the manager. Now it's like the Odeon ones. They down in London, they were good enough to sell the cups to some of the fans that were going in and asking, can they buy? And they were for a $5. My mate
they charged me a tenner, brother.
Did they? Oh my god!
What day did you go? I wonder if they dropped the price.
This was on the premiere day. I'm sure Pete's in the chat. Pete bought one, and I'm sure he got charged a $5. I might be wrong.
Yeah, I picked one up, took it to the counter. They scanned it in. It came up as £9.50 for itself, or £10.50 if you filled it up with a drink. And I was like, for a £10.50, you can damn well fill it up with a drink. So
God.
Can't find mine now. I can't find mine now, but I've got mine somewhere, and I got it for nothing. But I'm not going to say how.
And
all right,
it's
love,
like,
It's nothing vulgar, I promise.
and it's like the Odeon pins. You know those little pins?
Oh yeah.
Everyone's chasing them at the moment, and
a lot of Odeons didn't actually receive them. The Odeons near me never got them.
Yeah. Well, they're similar to the AMC pins that were given out as well. I've noticed in the States. Now people are starting. Oh, here Pete's just popped it on. Look at that. Oh, right. I got the Odeon one for $5.99 from London at the premiere with Jamie. Yeah. And at the time I went, should I buy one or not? I should have done. I should have done now.
Right.
Damn it.
So the last few days it being shown to an audience, they'll have loads of them left over. They'll be wanting to chuck them at you.
Yes, that's right. I'm going to go up to the Odeon in about a week or two to see what they've got left, to tell the truth. And they usually have a storeroom, and you can go and buy it all, because they know they could get money, and they put the money in for charity. Now, like I was saying, the pins, people are doing the full set of pins, but charging a lot of money on the aftermarket on eBay and stuff like that. And also, talking about what the Americans got with the popcorn buckets, the Ecto popcorn bucket, the trap bucket, the Slimer bucket, and they also got those fantastic Lounge Fly Proton Pack bags. I tried to get one for my wife. I got some. To be fair, I thought I was getting scammed at the beginning of it. He charged me $160 for one. I thought great, and then he turned around to me and says, there's a £250 insurance fee, which you'll get back. And I'm like, I've been sent stuff before and I've not paid it, but I didn't have the money. So I says, listen, if I'm going to get the money back, why don't you pay it and you get the money back? And he said, no, I can't. So I just said, well, refund me the money then. And to be fair, he sent me the money. So I wasn't scammed, and thank God. But those bags were amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yet again, the UK has lost out big time on all the merchandise. And it's like the toys. It's like, where's all the toys? Yeah, I mean, they even came out, didn't they? I saw them on bargain price before the film. In what people in the States have been seeing them in the bargain bins before the film was even out.
That's it for me, you see, because when I say hour one when first film come out, it weren't until hour 5 where I picked up on it, and I had to go into hospital when I was 5 for quite a stint.
Yeah,
and I had my own room, and I had a VHS player and a TV. And I had it on VHS, and I literally watched it, rewound it all day, every day. The one thing I asked for my parents when I come out of my operation, I wanted a Stay-Puft Marshmallow Man. And then when I come out of hospital, I had the flight suit, I had the figures, I had a proton pack water gun. My nan made me a jumpsuit. We used to play in streets doing it. And this went on for years. And when I went to watch it the other week, it were majority kids. They were probably me and my mate and probably 4 or 5 other people our age in there. Rest of everyone were all kids. And you think, looking around, you're thinking, the only way you're going to grab these kids into it and keep them there is for them to go home and be able to play with stuff and pretend that they're Venkman or, podcast or whoever they want to be. But like I said, there isn't that there. There isn't anything to. They go and see it, they talk about it for a day or two, and then it's next thing. Whereas for us, and I think that's a lot to do with how media's used now. Whereas before, you had to, like say, you had to wait months for video to come out, so that excitement had built, and when you finally got it, you watched it to death, and you'd have all gear and everything. Whereas kids now, everything's on demand. So if they lose interest, it's gone.
There's also an element of being able to sell it. So there is a growing popularity among toy sellers, retail outlets, with regards to selling things as it relates to the ghost. So, for example, does anyone here heard of The Entertainer, that retail toy store?
Yes,
The Entertainer?
Yes.
They will not sell anything Ghostbusters because they will not sell anything to do with ghosts or the occult or anything along those lines. And The Entertainer is a massive chain, if not probably the biggest chain of toy stores, I would say, now in the UK, now that Toys R Us and everything has gone. So if you cannot get the toys into the toy stores, then you probably means that you're going to have to, you know, make a significant less number, which is going to put the unit price up and up and up and up. And I would therefore imagine that this is going to be one of the main reasons why you're not going to see much Ghostbusters toys, because they can't get it into a number of the places. And the few places that you can, I mean, I think nowadays you're looking at your superstores, your Asda's, your Tesco's, where a lot of people see the toys out these days. You know, they're fighting for shelf space. And again, it just comes down to, anytime anyone that's going to take on Ghostbusters is taking on a bit of a commercial risk. And that's going to be
what you're saying, Dan. What you're saying about the entertainer, you see, I went in there looking for stuff the other day, because they do sell those Baby Yoda bounty packs, and I know that that's what the Stay Puft Marshmallow mini ones are in. So I thought they're bound to have them. No, they didn't. But now you've said that, I remember that being it now, the case.
Because they also won't stock Harry Potter things for the same reason.
God. Like, you're right. There's no Harry Potter in there.
There's no Harry Potter in the Entertainer. No.
Yeah.
Because again, it's wizards and conjuring spells and all of that. And it's the Entertainer is a extremely Christian company. And, I mean, to be fair to them, they don't open Sundays. So if you work for them, you know you're going to get Sundays off. They're very good around holidays. So whereas today some places may have been open, you would have not found the Entertainer anywhere, open. And so, you know, if you're working for the company, I'm sure it's a nice company to work for, knowing that you've definitely got your Sundays off and all of this. But if you're someone that is interested in anything that doesn't tick all the Christian boxes, you're going to be a little bit disappointed when shopping.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've got to rely on other means again. I've got a message here from the Mersey Ghostbusters. I've got a big rant about Hasbro distribution, full stop. But even more so when it comes to the Ghostbusters toy line ending up on bargain websites 18 months after Afterlife that was there. And they go on to just say arrived in the first place on stores and shelves. And then they say Smith's, as the Tesco's, don't stock Ghostbusters Afterlife either. And it's got a long one here. I work at the Entertainer, not to talk bad of my employees, but trolls and Skeletor is fine, but not scientists busting Marshmallow Man. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. And we've got a couple of also people that
there is going to be a level of hypocrisy in there, because they're just going to look at it, aren't they, and just go, no, that's and that's that, and that's what you're always going to deal with.
Yeah. Call the Ghostbusters. He said that's silly to hear that toy chain avoids Ghostbusters toys like it's such a fun property fit for toys, which it is. You know, all the real Ghostbusters toys. I mean, it's like, to me, I've always had a big problem with Hasbro, even though my shelves are covered in Hasbro stuff, right? Is that when it comes to distributing toys, it's really, really bad. They're really, really bad. And it's like, at the moment, they seem to be having all their money into the HasLab stuff. And, you know, for adults, basically. I know they've just released a new toy line of 3 3/4 figures. And I was looking at them and I was thinking, so basically you just stuck a Vecman head on a G.I. Joe action figure.
That's exactly what I thought. Exactly what I thought.
It's poor. And with the bolts here.
Yeah.
Have they not seen the Star Wars figures? They're from the same company. I mean, let's do
exactly what I thought when I first saw them. I just thought they looked like the Star Wars figures from 1977 to whatever, that through to the 80s. They just looked like the same thing. And of course, that was back then. This is 2024. It's whoa.
Yeah. And people were wanting the Ecto size for the bigger figures that they've been releasing, and I think you've been on this chat as well, Liam. Is how many times can Hasbro bring out the same 4 characters? How many? And you think they've never ever brought out 2 ghosts of the Scarelli brothers? Never brought them out. Various, of course, Slimer toys, and there's only a pop figure of Pukey. You know what I mean? There's not much. There's not much where the real Ghostbusters really took care of it. really took care of it.
Now,
Now,
the Funkos aren't in a lot of places. I've noticed as well. The only place I think I found them was either a Sainsbury's or an Asda.
oh man, I've looked in every Asda and I can't find them. I just can't find
Yeah,
them.
and they're going
I'm
up online. I went on to Amazon the other day. I noticed that they've gone from 13 up to like 15. I think Pukey was going at like 16 and a half. So I'm guessing they haven't made as many as they did. Because I will say, when it comes to the Afterlife Funkos, you can still buy them. They're still everywhere, going for like £4, £5. So I would imagine they massively cut down on the number of Funkos that they made for Frozen Empire because of the number of Funkos that were left over from Afterlife.
Yeah, I agree. Now, we could talk about merchandising all day long, especially how they brought out the Funko of Ray in the T-shirt, Repossessed. Never used it.
And you can buy the Repossessed shirt on the Ghostbusters merchandise store as well. And it's
I made that T-shirt. I spent hours and hours reproducing that logo so I can stick it on my T-shirt. And then when I've done it, and I was like, oh, why do I
this is what I mean when I was talking earlier about when we were talking. It was Fern brought up the trailer about how I think it was Fern. So apologies if I'm wrong. But with regards to how much was in there, like, and I was with you, by the way. Like, we stopped watching all promo and all trailers like 2 weeks before because it was just getting a bit much, especially if you've got your alerts set to everything Ghostbusters and your phone's going off constantly anytime new. But then it just kind of like makes sense when you're looking, you're like, okay, this film's been rushed because there was so much in the trailer and including merchandise that was released that then had no, showing in the film at all. When you realize, God damn, like, you guys rushed this, like, because what you thought was going to be in it and what you thought were going to be key scenes that you made a point of us focusing on when we were watching the trailers never even ended up in the film. And
that's true.
And things that you thought were going to be so key that you released merchandise of this never ended up being in the film.
Well, so when you think about
that original version that they thought they were going to be releasing, like,
well, when you think about it, oh, sorry, Fern, go on.
I was going to say it's almost like they've set the bar with all the build up to it, and then they've fallen short of the bar. It's a lot of disappointment, if you like.
Imagine what Jason Reitman and Gil Kennan are feeling, because if we're feeling this, and it was rushed, like, I think a lot of us feel that it was rushed, right? I'm not trying to talk for everyone, but would I be right that we all feel that it felt rushed and a lot? Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of special features on DVD. Put it that way.
Well, I'm sure it'll probably take another 20 years for us to get most of them out in various collectible discs each time. But I think to myself, if we feel this way, imagine how they felt, because I can't imagine they were happy. I mean, how many times in the film did we see things being said that didn't match up to the lips because it was done in ADR and in a rush, So and so as bad as I feel, and I know, like, focusing on a little bit of nitpicking as you were saying, like, I wonder how bad those guys feel, because so much of it was clearly taken out of their hands when you look at what was promoted, what was pushed, what was clearly meant to be key things that ended up having to be cut and on the chopping floor.
Yeah, I wonder how much of a say they actually had in it. It makes me think. And I've met, obviously, like most of us, I've met both of them, and they're such lovely guys. And you just think they're so lovely. You just want to think. And I've actually said to Jason, thank you for what you're doing, following on in your dad's footsteps and taking, because with Afterlife, what he did was absolutely mind-blowing, amazing. You couldn't wish for anything better.
Yeah,
exactly. It rescued from the ashes. The phoenix has risen, blah blah blah, and he did such a great job with that. And I'm just wondering if maybe if Jason had directed this one rather than just co-written it, would it have been different? There's a lot of what ifs. That's what I feel anyway.
Sam says it's strange that Gil says there are only 2 scenes that didn't make the film after seeing what wasn't included from the trailers.
No, he didn't say there was only 2 scenes that didn't make the film. What he said was there are 2 scenes that he really wishes he could have included that he is going to release.
Yeah.
So there is going to be a hell of a lot more that was obviously, and which is standard for films anyway. We know this, but there is going to be a hell of a lot more that. It's such a shame that Jason Reitman does feel that, but I understand it, and he's not the only director, but does feel that the final version is the director's cut, because Afterlife clearly had a different driving force and flow originally, based on everything that we've seen, everything that's been cut out, and this clearly did too. And it's such a shame, because I would love to see the 2 hour. Apparently there was about 40 minutes worth. That's the rumor, that it was between 30 and 40 minutes worth of stuff cut from this, which I understand. You can't have a 2.5 hour film, but you know.
Well, Titanic was 3 hours long.
Mate, someone told Martin Scorsese he should make a film 3.5 hours last year.
There actually is a 3.5 hour film. There's Killers of the Flower Moon with Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's the Martin Scorsese movie. Yeah,
that's the one. That's the one. Yeah, you're right when it comes to the diddy scenes, because you know it's like that part with Trevor, because Trevor, to be fair, had nothing to do in this film, and that bit you actually see him in the attic chucking the proton streams at Slimer, and never happened. And the bit where just after the incident in the kitchen with Slimer and the possessor, there's another scene where he's like pointing his hand up to where it's gone.
Garrica and Lucky got frozen to smithereens in the trailer. Just a little bit on her fingers in the actual film.
Yes. Trevor Story was missing completely. Yeah,
and the biggest one, of course. Ho 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 ho! You know, like the red part. Everyone all got excited over those red Parkers.
Yeah, we did. And they're all in the marketing, didn't they?
They're everything. That's what I mean, man. It's like.
But it's like all I mean, again, going back to Community. I mean, anyone could tell me a franchise where they'll get literally a screenshot of a promo picture, and then within weeks someone's 3D printed it and they've got files, and I saw mods going on for proton packs months ago, and I'm sat there thinking, no one's even seen this yet. It might be absolutely rubbish, and people are going to all ends in it. I saw people paying hundreds of pounds for a red coat that wasn't official, but they're paying £100 for it. And then you got to film and you're thinking, all right, well, why is it that like silencer on front? It looked like a silencer, like that grill bit on front. None of that's explained. None of it's explained why there's that there, why there's that there. And you think,
I've got it here.
That's the one. That's the one. You know, I'm not expecting end and verse, but just a little.
Looks of it. That's something.
Yeah, but just a little explanation as to why the design's a bit different. You know, is it because the regular stream is not effective, so they've got to boost everything up a bit to make it? There
is a throwaway little bit with Dan Aykroyd looking at the
schematics
and just saying, you did this, you did, and but it's just so quick, and he's not tying it to any specifics, and then there's a real harsh, horrible cut to then Ernie Hudson going, let's get to work. That's clearly missed out a whole bunch of stuff in the middle, and that's as close as we get to the reason why there's more, obviously, and understandably and rightfully, put into Phoebe brass plating components of the pack. But like
that moment with the brass plating was very A-Team thrown together.
Yeah, it was.
I'd have loved an 80s montage in the middle. I would have kind of loved that.
Can I just say a montage? All the complaints that I keep seeing people online going, this film didn't have any actual Ghostbusting, and obviously all of us are going, have you ever watched a Ghostbusters film? There's actually very little, but we always had the montage. And that made it feel like there was a lot more. And I feel that because of the pacing of this film, it could have really done with that montage, And I reckon there probably was, but it ended up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Funny enough, that scene where Phoebe's, doing a pack. I must admit, I've got that scene, and I've actually put the A-Team music to it, but I can't post it because I get done for it, but because it just works so well. To be fair, and like on that pitch meeting with Ryan George, he says he goes, "Oh, surely that kind of thing's going to take hours." He goes, "No, it just takes them same amount of times this to zip up their flight suits," which is absolutely true. Now, there was a scene as well which I was so looking forward to, because they often say, when you get Bill Murray, you use all the footage you get of Bill Murray, because he's usually only on there for a day. That's it. And there was that scene where he's in the basement with Gruberson, and they cut it. They cut it straight
Yeah.
out, and I was thinking, what's going on here with that? And it made
I feel like that was probably a big monumental moment of almost passing over the baton, but a meaningful, gradual thing rather than just all rushed. And again, that was just taken out. So,
but it was a good joke, and
Mhm.
that's what you needed. You needed some more jokes in it. To be
Yeah.
fair,
the
way
Venkman one-liners.
yeah, that's right. To be
Yeah.
fair, he was really good with is it Jamal? You know, and he was what funny enough, what did you reckon to Jamal? Old Mr. the fire starter.
I like some. Don't get me wrong. Some of the things he said, I actually found quite funny, but it just didn't. For me, it didn't feel like it was part of Ghostbusters universe. It felt like it was from a different film. The humor, I just thought it doesn't quite fit. I just didn't understand. Like, again, I don't know whether it's due to what's been cut out, but a lot of the issues I had with it were like he's gone from being reluctant to do everything to do it. He's just selling stuff off. Then all of a sudden he finds out he's got some sort of power. Then he's practicing with it, and then all of a sudden he's an expert within minutes, just as it counts. And you just think, it just didn't feel earned. And it was same with some of the jokes. I just thought it were trying too hard to make him funny. Whereas if you look at the original, they weren't trying to be funny. The thing where they were just absurd because they were in real world, and they were the absurd thing about it, and that's what made it funny. And when it's like trying to be forced jokes, it just don't land for me. And I just think it could be, if it were a TV show and it were over a period of time, and you got time to get used to these characters and who they are and their own personalities, you could play them sort of jokes out a bit more because they've got a bit more ground to build them up. Whereas in a film that's that fast paced, they were an impending threat that they built up that you're meant to take seriously. But then having daft humour outside of it, I thought it sort of diminishes what they're trying to fight. To me, it just didn't seem to fit.
Yeah, and plus the ensemble cast was really large for this film.
Yeah.
And considering how much time, because you had the originals, you had the new, and then you added some characters to it, you know, with the and it was like they say, why is the engineer section, the new place, kept secret? Why was it kept secret?
This
You know what I mean?
man, what? How is it that those kids didn't have a WhatsApp group chat? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
anyone that's got kids knows their
Yes.
kids have group chats with their friends. The
Yeah,
that's what I'm
idea
working
that
on.
Trevor had no idea that
Yeah.
this place existed, even though Lucky was there.
Yeah.
I'm just like, like that was such a big like, come on, lads, come
Yeah.
on.
It was
Yeah.
very, very flimsy, that kind of plot
This-
line, and saying,
yeah.
"Oh, you had an internship." It's just like, yeah, but even if she was an internship, why have you suddenly just broken contacts? Then you just find out that she's there by chance. It was a bit flimsy,
Yeah,
I think.
and
She
that's-
ain't gonna message and say, dude, you have no idea what I just shot today.
Yeah, and that hug,
Like,
that
I just
Trevor
got
and
to
Lucky
blow
hug was
so
like,
much up. This is so cool.
Yeah. It was a bit underwhelming, wasn't it?
Yeah, excellent point, Dan. What a GB WhatsApp. Yeah, excellent point. Yeah. I think we're all on them, to be fair. Aren't we all? We're all on
pretty much.
Ghostbusters. Yeah. And like you said, that hug that I was going to call him Tracy then. I don't know why. Trevor and Lucky did seemed so false. I was like, you know, they've not seen each other. And it was like this whole aspect of it, I was thinking, wow, they are really introducing a lot. But there again, we already saw it in all the bloody trailers. Know what I mean? But it's nice to see that the firehouse is front and center of this story. I want to get to the beginning of it. Who enjoyed that beginning of it? I thought it had a hell of a setup with that 1904, even though it's not accurate, as we've just found out with the firehouse. But you know, to start off in that year with that society and finding out about about Garak, then I thought that was such a real good beginning. Who thought that? Did anyone else have that?
Yeah, I loved that start. I really thought that were going to set the tone for film for me. I thought if it had been along that sort of tone the whole way through, so it'd have been a bit like. I was thinking about it over there. I was talking to my friend about it, and the reason Ghostbusters 1 works, we all know it. It was everyone on every platform. Always say it were lightning in a bottle, and it were. Ghostbusters 2, the way that that changed for me is the score. As soon as score comes in, it's more whimsical and light-hearted. It changed the mood completely. And I think with the start of this film, the way that it started, the tone it started, I thought this is going to be creepy. Where and it's going to put you on edge, but it's going to be a comedy ultimately because of who's in it. And it just didn't seem to have that. It started that way, and then just sort of drifted off, and it went into some tone. Started off like semi-serious, then it went and like said them jokes where even though it were funny, it didn't fit. Where he sliding down pole and he gets stuck. Quite funny, but it just didn't really seem to fit the tone or everything else.
See, I disagree with that personally. Like, I thought Kumail, I thought his character was great, and I thought it was he tended to, like, from all the screenings that I was in, his character had the biggest laughs, like consistently, and usually it was the sliding down, the pole got everyone as well. I mean, his role in this film is it's Dana Barrett of '84, isn't it? That is literally what we've got going on here, just without the romance aspect. But I felt that it fit. The other thing I will say is like, we're never going to get '84 again, and part of that is also going to be because of the fact that, the way that television and films and style is put together. Like, I can't stand, being completely honest, any kind of like American television sitcom because they're all so formulaic and they're all working for the funny one-liner as opposed to shows like, I can't stand the new Frasier, but I think the old Frasier was great, and that's not just because I'm getting old and I'm becoming that guy that just likes back in my day, but but I also realize, having worked in television, what it is that they're dealing with and what it is that they're after. And so I look at what it could have been, and I think that this may be where there's like a little bit of I don't know whether it's a disconnect to what other people. It's like I'm looking at what it could have been, knowing what they can be like, and I'm looking at what we got, and I actually really liked this character and the comedy that they brought. But I completely agree with Liam as well that, and again, it comes back down to the cutting and the editing. Some things just were jumping and were just all over the place, like him walking into the firehouse and Caddy Coon being like, who are you? Where'd you come from? We got that with Rick Moranis before, but that's because he was being dropped off, and that's what I mean. It's like Kumail's character is really a kind of combination of Rick Moranis and Sigourney Weaver's character from one. But in here, he just kind of walks in, and then downstairs in the basement, he just walks down when James Acaster's character is at the containment unit. It's just, hang on a minute. What, it's just he's walking into scenes at convenient times to, make them go, but not in a way that makes any sense that we as a viewer can familiarize or, connect to.
I mean, I know there was a lot of before it came out, and then they announced the cast and everything. And Jamal's character was a lot of people saying, I hope he doesn't ruin it, because he's obviously been in the Star Wars things that he's been in and other bits and pieces, and they felt that he ruined a lot of the franchises or the film or whatever. But I was actually pleasantly surprised by his character. I thought he didn't make it any worse, but like you say, it was just the cutting of it. I think the way that they brought him in, and then how they sort of introduced him to everything was again a bit rushed. 1904 scene. Well, I mean, anyone who's seen it in 4DX, and that was a nice slow intro, nicely paced, everything that Ghostbusters was, and it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, because you have got the music score there, you've got this kind of like nostalgic sort of start, and it had a really strong start, which I thought, this is going to be good. And then after that, it was just like 100 miles an hour, that's happening, this and that and this and that, and it was just like, whoa, hang on. It's a great start, but everything else is just rushed.
Yes. I like, to be fair, I agree with all of you on this one. Sometimes I was thinking, oh God, but then I really liked his character. But then I was thinking, here's his character in the Ghostbusters universe? Does it fit in the Ghostbusters universe? But
Mm.
it would have fitted in the Ghostbusters universe, the real Ghostbusters universe. It would have fitted perfectly there because we've had instances like that in the cartoon, but not in live action. And it certainly points to where the franchise can go now, you know, because you're now establishing that that normal humans are like could be potentially different, like kind of X-Men. You know what I mean? You know, what I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So it's be interesting. And you know, he's one of those characters that yeah, he was in Obi-Wan. He was awful
Yeah.
in Obi-Wan, and he was in
Exactly.
Essentials, and he was awful in that. And I, you know, but when I saw he was in this, I was thinking, oh my god! But it was a pleasant surprise. I didn't mind him. Didn't mind it at all.
Some of the stuff were landing for me. Some of his little witty one-liners he was saying, or just a sort of, you know, like someone, a character sent me and he'd like give him a funny look and glance away. That were brilliant. I thought his
Mm.
timing is spot on. It's just some of the jokes that he were trying to land. I mean, it for me, it just didn't fit the tone of what the film should have been. It felt quite forced.
Yeah.
But as a whole, I did enjoy the character. I thought some of his stuff it added to it. But then, like you say, is where do they go from this? Because if they do bring another film out, inevitably he's going to have to be in it now. How can you have a character with that much power that just vanishes?
Selling trainers.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it goes and starts doing like a novelty carnival show or something. I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Selling Ghostbusters merchandise for top dollar. That's for sure. Now, there was one character that we sort of like missed, and I'm not talking about James Acosta's. I'm talking about Melody, the ghost. What did you reckon to this storyline? Because I know I thought, I must admit, I rolled my eyes when they started to sort of unwind it, and it was like they wanted to go down that storyline, but then sort of pulled back. They didn't. I don't. It was very confusing for me, and I suppose just like Phoebe it was very confusing. And it's
Yeah.
like, do you reckon that to me her character could have easily not been in it, like a couple of these people? Her character did not need to be in this because they even played the chess set. You know, in the initial chess set scene, you hear the musical cue to make you think that's her granddad she's playing with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same musical cue they used with Egon, and then of course it wasn't. And then Melody suddenly popped up, and for you know, first thing, are 15-year-old girls allowed to play chess in the middle of New York? Yeah, I don't know. In a park, it seems very dangerous to me. But what do you reckon? What do you reckon to the lovely Melody?
Yeah, obviously I sent you that message when I first watched it. I'm in middle with it. I think if they'd have developed that more, again, going back to what I was saying, if they'd have built this over a period of time, so it being 2 films or something, I had an idea the other day when I was thinking about it. If they'd have had that she possibly, the Melody character was someone she knew when she were alive, and that character died. And because she knew Phoebe were affiliated with Ghostbusters, she approached her as a ghost, said, I've got unfinished business, I need your help. That would have made more sense that she got
Casper style.
Yeah, she got this preordained relationship that already existed that we're just learning about. The fact for me that she come into it, she just appeared from nowhere, like I say, in a park. I mean, that in itself would terrify me if someone a chess piece just moved in that park on its own. Then she befriends her, and then I mean, obviously it's it's been a while since I watched now, but I think they meet 3 times over the course. Then she essentially commits suicide to interact with her. I think that is over 3 meets. Really? Blooming heck.
Yeah.
And to me, like I say, if they'd have had that pre-existing relationship and she were friends with her before and she's doing this to help her in some way, and then that whole thing about her manipulating, that'd have had more of an impact as well for me, because it's like it's even more of a betrayal. It just you probably could have took it out of film, but if they'd have built it up a bit more, I think it could have been quite a good narrative on teenage angst and not understanding who they are and the developing feelings that they don't know about and things like that. That could have all played a part. It just needed a bit more time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with that. I kind of like, I was like half and half about it. It was almost like you're going through the whole story of them two, and you're just thinking, what is this here for? What is the point of this? And it isn't until the end, again, rushed end, that it's kind of like, oh, she's the one who sparks the match that throws it to the fire master, and that's it. And then suddenly you go, oh, she's got a purpose now, but it's the end. And you just think that could have been anybody that could have thrown him a light or something like that. I think her character was good, but it's a lot that could have been saved for maybe another installment, or like I think someone said earlier, maybe if there was a TV series to be made, a spin-off or something, she could be a character in that. I think her character was a great idea, but I just thought, again, that's just something else going on, and you're just wondering all the way through, what is the point of this, until the very end when she sparks the match. But like I say, that could have been anybody. Venkman could have pulled out as when he says, oh yeah, I was proud of you then giving up smoking, and I'm proud of you now, but I still carry a lighter or something. He could have pulled one out, so another one-liner.
Yeah, but then you're giving away a plot development for a one-liner.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As opposed to like with regards to just a couple of things that were said, like regards to like Egon's theme being played. I mean, that's obviously we're supposed to think that she thinks that at that time, that she thinks that it's her granddad, and she gets that smile come up on her face, and then the disappointment on her face when it turns out it's not. And that's the thing. I think there's a number of things that I've been able to take from it in some of the details because I've seen the film 9 times. And like, so some of the problems that I had with it on my initial watch, and I think it's partly going to be because my hopes were so high, despite the fact that I so badly tried to control them. That there were some of the problems, the pacing that we've all mentioned, do exist, but there are some details that were really wonderfully executed that I have really been able to take from the multiple viewings that you won't get when you watch it the first time. That's not a defense of it, because you still should be able to get everything as much as you can from a one-time only show, and no film should go in there going, oh, it's all right, they'll get it on the 4th or 5th showing. It should be more, that you notice some other nice little details to add, as opposed to things that help you along. So I didn't have any problem with the idea of that, because the theme being used wasn't so much as to, convince us that it was going to be him, but it was to tell us what she's feeling. And then to match with the fact that she then shows disappointment on her face when it turns out it's just a random ghost, which then confuses, Melody's character, because they're like, hang on, they're normally running away by now. Why doesn't this person? Well, it makes sense because we've been through this, thing before with Phoebe. The unalive stuff that happens later on, I'm saying unalive because the S word YouTube doesn't like, so I'm going to avoid saying the S word.
Yes,
YouTube has a habit of, so I'm with you completely. It was just like, well, hang on a minute. This has come out of nowhere. And this again comes down to the cutting and the editing. So much of the development was clearly cut out, left, and was clearly things from other parts in the film were clearly repurposed and put into different parts of the film to try and connect as best as they could. So completely agree that the development of that relationship, however one decides to take it, was too quick, sudden, and poorly explained. That being said, one of the things that I have done in all of the viewings that I've had is I've tried to go on the busiest screening of that day. So I'm constantly looking at, okay, well, how busy is this one? How busy is this one? And I've seen it a couple of some of the viewings that I've seen, I should say, of the 9 viewings that I've had, they obviously aren't one viewing a day. Some of them are a couple of times on a day. The reason why I like to do that is because I like to listen to people talking about it.
Yes.
Because I only have my view. I know I've got a bias because I'm a ghost head, right? And that's no good to have an idea in terms of what everyone else is feeling. So I like to go and I put myself in the midst of you know, like the biggest grouping of where I can see. I'm that annoying person that buys that one ticket and sits in amongst people, right? And that's so that I can like take in what everyone's saying. There was several screenings over this holiday period that has had a very high teenage girl attendance, far more than what I saw. I saw Afterlife 8 times before. The YouTube also doesn't like the C word either. Before the thing that's not flu, that shut the world down. But before that happened and got a hold of me, I saw Afterlife 8 times, and I never saw as diverse an audience as what I saw with this one. And I heard them talk positively with regards to this.
All right.
So, and my kids also, I've got a 16-year-old daughter. They like this, you know. They agreed when we were speaking about it. Obviously, it was so, you know, like I think everyone going to see there was a lot cut and a lot joined up suddenly. But I definitely feel that despite that, from being around and listening, that was actually a popular. And I think it's not a complex thing necessarily. It is, as you rightfully said, the Casper element. I mean, this is borrowing. This isn't just borrowing from Casper. It's almost plagiarism on Casper, you know. It's so much.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing Merseyside Ghostbusters saying that their 9-year-old daughter loved it as well. And so, I think that there's just going to be some things where Ghostbusters has such a hard time in pleasing such a diversely aged, audience, because of the fact that it is a 40-year-old franchise that, in order to survive, needs to incorporate the feelings of youngsters and where society is at that point as well. And that's such a complicated, difficult thing to do.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing. I agree that if they're going to do it, I think they actually did it a disservice. Because if you're going to bring that up, then do it. Don't just play at it. Just do it. And that's what I felt it
didn't test strong in some of the previous screenings, or they were advised cut that down because we don't want to have two romances going on because we've already got the. You wonder where, because it was clearly written and clearly filmed and then clearly cut.
Yes. There's a Leeds 106 says, do we feel the film from that point on was changed for some reason because McKenna was called back in November for reshoots and had to cancel Manchester convention? Could be. That could be it. Could be the reason. And I do know there was like some scenes where they're on the subway going to the marina, you know, to the research lab. So there was a couple of scenes that couldn't, because I thought that scene, well, they're there, and that's her jumping in the machine. I thought to myself, that was just like somebody saying, can a human jump in this blender? Oh yeah. For how long? 2 minutes and you'll be all right. Oh, I just might do that.
Yeah.
Because literally it was a human blender that she jumped in.
And
how did they know?
There's one line and only one line, which is her saying, have you tested this on living spirits? And he James Acaster's character replies, we're still testing, or we're still experimenting. That is the only line that we have that then has any reference on her then getting in and doing this. That came so out of nowhere, and that's part of the sharpness of some of these, leaps and cuts and jumps that we have, because it's like, wait, what?
Yes, yeah.
I'm just wondering if this film actually, this film, Frozen Empire, is. I mean, when I was there on that day at my local cinema, the kids were coming out and saying, "I loved it," and our favourite part was blah 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 blah, and a lot of the favourite parts, just as a fan, as a ghost head, were my least favourite parts. So I'm just wondering if, when you look at Afterlife and then you look at Frozen Empire, was Afterlife more of an homage, if you like, to the fandom, and was Frozen Empire just geared towards the wider audience? And the fandom's in there, but for kids, for the new generation of fans of it, that I'm trying to sort of weigh up the two and just think. I think Afterlife was a great homage to the fandom that we've had for 40 years. And maybe not so much with this one. I mean, I don't know what
Well,
anybody
again,
else thinks.
it's that popularity aspect, isn't it? You know, like
Yeah.
this is not as big a franchise as it feels if you're in it.
Mm.
And that sometimes is a harsh thing to say, you know, because it feels like that hurts, right? And I know it because like I love Ghostbusters so goddamn much. But you know, it would be wrong of me to, you know, mix emotions with facts, because facts don't care about your emotions, nor should they. And I think that that is something that the people behind it, as I was saying earlier, had a very difficult job. I think the people at Sony and everyone that just look at the bottom line, they're just looking at the bottom line. And then you've got the people in the middle, which is your cast, your Jason Reitman, your Gil Cannon, and all the other tremendous people that are involved that have this as a passion product. You know, trying to make as many people happy as they can. And it's such a difficult thing because it is such 40 years, and the type of television and comedy that we had 40 years ago, it just doesn't work today. It's too, like everything that we get now, comedy has to be big and in your face and see that happen. Whereas 40 years ago, you look at Ghostbusters 1, so much of it was subtle. It wasn't over the top one-liners. There was the odd one line, but it wasn't over the top. And that is just a difference in how television has moved on. It doesn't mean it's better or anything along those lines, but it's just that, like clicking like and subscribe. That's a hint for those watching.
And bums on seats, isn't it?
Right, it's the instant gratification, like us scrolling through Facebook. That is what the studio execs are looking for, and that is what the people who are making films or entertainment content are trying to fight. Just only having that instant gratification, but trying to tell stories and trying to appease such a wide audience.
I think that's it as well. It's how it's, if you look at the first one, New York itself is the character in that. You know, the aesthetics of New York and the way it is. Whereas now, I mean, even like having a mobile phone pictured in a film now will age that film, because you can pinpoint when that film come out via a phone or a certain soundtrack. And that didn't happen in the 80s because it was just kind of a cultural thing. Whereas now it's very much, well, that were 2024 because there's that model of phone in it. In 10 years' time, you'll say, well, that's when people still carried phones. Now, you know, it's like on an headset now. You don't have,
you're dead right.
It's been so fast.
Yeah, my son gets mad when he sees people flossing in films because he goes, "Oh, why you done that?" Because that's going to age so badly. You know, when they do the floss. The floss phone thing.
Someone's just put a comment up about exactly that phone, but then I missed it. I don't know what the last comment was.
Merseyside Ghostbusters. I'll just pop it back on. There we go. Oh no, that's good. No. No, there we go. Definitely is that fun. I just think Sony and Hasbro have fumbled getting the younger demographic interested in it. I think so.
Yeah.
You know,
I think they don't know how to play it. I think it's just because of the wide audience, and I think they're really concerned about the critics as well. Like, I do believe that this would have got a better critical response had Bill Murray, you know, Ernie and Dan not been a part of this, because there is so much, you know, anger still, you know, from the critics to the fan base. And Bill Murray is not, you know, in the good graces ridiculously of the media currently, and a lot of the era that Bill Murray's part, even to the Wes Anderson. Now everyone's turning on Wes Anderson films and filmmaking as well, and it's just like they're treating it like fashion, and that is a lot of the problem that you have with entertainment, you know, critical industry is, well, this isn't cool right now, so we can't say it's cool. And it's not so much in terms of like viewing it and judging it as its own product, as this just isn't cool, this isn't the in thing. With Ghostbusters, I've seen so many reviews say things like it's time to put away the packs, and yet I've seen so many of those same people defend some of the mediocrity of the superhero genre by saying that there's not superhero fatigue, there's just bad movie fatigue. Because you can go back, and as Liam was saying earlier, like that era where we had Thanos and the Avengers and building to the Endgame, those weren't great superhero movies. Those were great movies. And, you know, with Frozen Empire, it is not as good as Afterlife, but Afterlife is a great movie. And a 95% audience score versus a 64% critic score show that there's a massive disconnect between the audience and the critics there. Why? Because the critics had already made a decision about this movie based on what the franchise was.
Yes.
And that is so much of, but that is something still that the studios have to factor in, because that is advertising. And the critics do have, and the volume of advertising, if it's negative, will have an impact on the legs of a film. The legs of this film are bottoming out. Part of that is because of the release schedule, but there will be an element of that as well, based on the fact that the critics' reviews of this have been so much worse than that of Afterlife, you know, and that's what I mean. It's just like there's so much that so many people are having to try and juggle with a modern day Ghostbusters movie that features the old cast.
Now, funny you should say that about that, then, is that do you know Empire magazine? They did this massive 3-cover issue. So you got your 2 glow in the dark ones, which every single Ghostbuster fan bought. Then you had your subscription cover, which no end of people got subscriptions just to get that cover. And then they gave them 2 stars. Just 2 stars. It wasn't even a recommendation. They put it lower, because I listened to their podcast. They put it lower than this Lindsay Lohan love story video, the film that's just gone on to Prime. They put it lower than that. And I was
how much of that do you think, though, is then going to be based on the fact that everyone else is also slating it? How much of a risk is it then for them to come out and be the one that says something positive?
Yeah, you're
You know
right.
what I mean, it's just like there's so much, because that world is a business, and it's not as straightforward as being an independent film reviewer. It is a business in itself, and so they will make decisions based on what they feel is right for their business, not as an independent reviewer. Even if I honestly believe that it's almost like method acting sometimes when they go into this film, because they've made their mind up already that they're going to go in and they're just going to do. It's just, you look at some of these audience scores versus, you know, critic responses, and you're just like, there's such a big difference. There's less of a difference between this one and the basis that because the audience scores for Frozen Empire are a fair bit down compared to that of Afterlife.
Yes.
But at the same time, the media just went harder on this than they did on Afterlife. I mean, I saw one review, and I think I might have told you about this already off air, but like that, because all the projections for Afterlife were lower than what the actual opening weekend ended up doing. Not by much, but they were at the top end of that projection. And I saw one place specifically says, Nation decides to shruggingly go, oh, well, we might as well see Ghostbusters. Rather than taking Ghostbusters exceeded its weekend projections, which if it had been a cool, property, they'd have gone, look at Godzilla and Kong. Godzilla and Kong this weekend has smashed its projections. And so that's the story, despite the fact that as a film, it ain't good. Right? It ain't. There's a lot of similarities to Frozen Empire, actually. But this is a bad film that but is an experience because it's Godzilla and Kong. With Ghostbusters Afterlife, everyone was hating it because of the nostalgia. That was the constant thing. Oh, it's just nostalgia. That's all they care about. They're just living for nostalgia. Despite the fact that Ghostbusters Afterlife came out at the same time as Spider-Man No Way Home, which was literally nostalgia for the previous Spider-Man films.
Yes, it was.
But Spider-Man and Marvel at the time was super hot. Zendaya, Tom, do you know what I mean? Like this was a hot property, so it was good for them to get behind that because that was smart. And so therefore, no slating on the nostalgia whatsoever. But with Ghostbusters, let's slate the nostalgia.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus,
that-
you got to
that-
also remember. Oh, go on, Liam.
So I would say that a lot of that, and it's not just with Ghostbusters. I think it's in general with films, the film industry, is the
Yes.
amount of money that gets pumped into films that they're not willing to take risks because they don't want to take that much. They don't want to take a big loss on the money they put in. Whereas if you look at some of the classic films of the 80s that have stood the test of time, that have become cultural icons, were made on menial budgets because they had to put the effort into the story. And
Right.
that's what they built the franchise from. Whereas now, is as much as I love the old cast, they're not allowing this new thing to be a new thing, and it's always clinging to it, so it's not allowing it to grow. And again, that's part of the fact that we've invested a lot of money into this. We need to grab people into it to come and see it to get that money back. And I think, well, to me, if you want a franchise to grow and become its own thing, you need to let it do that.
Mm.
Cut the invest actual story rather than flashy stuff all over the screen. Invest in the actual story and the plot, and then you might start to build that fan base back up again.
I bet you there is a great cut possible with all the footage they've got of Frozen Empire, but we just didn't get it because of the rush job.
Yeah,
and because there was probably a time put on, you know, various boxes needing to be ticked by those and, you know, above, and it can't go over this amount of time, and we need the do you know what I mean? Like, but I bet you, looking at the people, I mean, look at Afterlife, it's the same guys. Yeah, I mean, the directing part may have changed, but it's still the same guys.
Yeah,
you know, the idea that we got this compared to Afterlife, I bet you that there is a great version, a great version of this film that we are never going to see.
You've also got to remember that because of the time of wearing the masks, they gave Jason a long time to watch Afterlife and make different cuts to it, to add stuff. He really had a long time to rethink that film and make it to what it was, and I think it made it. Why they didn't release Frozen Empire on is it June for the 40th?
Yeah.
Is it June for the 40th?
June is the 40th anniversary, and June 8th specifically, you know, and June 7th, I don't know what's out. I'm actually going to look up what is currently slated for a June 7th release, because the fact that this is a summer movie as well, jump into now. The summer is probably going to be packed because we're dealing with a number of the things from the writers' strike that moved everything into this year. So this year is a packed year for film, but a lot of them are coming out first half. So I don't know why. And again, I said this, Aaron, and I'm going to sound terrible because I keep repeating it. I cannot figure out, unless it's purely a Q1 earnings reason, why they needed this to be out in March when March is loaded.
Yes. Yeah. That's
yeah,
right.
definitely bad timing. I think.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Hasn't helped it at all, is it really?
Yeah. Do you know, just getting back to the critics thing, that what Liam said as well, is that you got to remember that the critics have never forgiven the fans for slating 2016. So the critics will automatically slate anything to do with the original cast, because they're sort of like trying to get back over at this toxic fandom. To me, there's not much. I don't believe in toxic fandom because I believe in passionate fans. You know what I mean? And some fans, you know, they do go slightly over and aboard, but people love their franchises. They love them. It's what they've grown up to be. You know what I mean?
I
my
agree, but
room's
that's
full
not an
of
excuse to
Star
attack like
Wars
the
and
cast.
stuff like that. Oh
Do you know
no, yeah,
you know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's like they're just signed up to do a movie.
Yeah. But those people that did that were people that just jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah,
they weren't true fans. There's no way they're true fans. You know what I mean? Do you know, I put, you know, 'cause you can see all the Star Wars behind me. I can't stand Mark Hamill's political views, but he's a great actor. I like him. I've got the action figures, but you know, I can't stand his political views. But there's no way I'll go online and start going, "You've ruined it for me," blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? Because in the 2016, it's a bad movie, but the actresses are really good actresses, and you got to remember that they all started on Saturday Night Live, just like the original. from the
Exactly.
original actors. So, but to be fair to the 2016, there's a far better behind the scenes story about how that film got made with the studios than the actual film. To be fair, if you look at I think it's Midnight Edge, they did this 45 minutes investigation sort of thing. Do you remember with the email leaks from Sony, which had a lot to do with about Ivan and the Ghostbusters franchise? Because we would have had Ghostbusters 3 back then, you know what I mean? But no, they wanted to go in a totally different direction. So now, because everyone didn't like that, the critics don't like what you're watching.
Well, again,
They
look at
will
the
always
critics versus the audience. It wasn't just ghost heads that didn't like it. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was it was fine. I own it. I just appreciated the fact that there was a film that was gonna open up the previous two films to a new audience, you know, that people would see that. And we've seen that, you know, like there are people who first found Ghostbusters through 2016. I love Ghostbusters, so any way that people can find it, you know, whether it be even through the Japanese anime, you know, manga, comic books. I don't care if you find Ghostbusters brilliant. You know, like I'm all in. I'm with you. But yeah, again, it was like it did get, because people did go over the top and they did it. And it's one of those things. It's like you only need to be a member of some Ghostbusters Facebook groups, and it's just one of those things. Like, why are you even bringing it up? Because you know, it's just you're only looking for attention as the reason why you're bringing it up.
Yeah,
so
I have.
You know, like there's no reason for people to keep bringing it up on this, and we know the reason why they're doing it.
It's happened with this film. I mean, I went on forum the other day on Facebook, and there's people coming out saying that I've just been to see it, and F everyone who thought who had problems with it. And you think people are entitled to an opinion. There's no right or wrong. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. And it's same with 2016. I went into it thinking it was going to be terrible. I went, actually, it weren't that bad. It weren't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But my hope were, I thought, I hope my daughter picks up on it, because I want her to have someone to aspire to, and we can have a joint thing, and we can go out together. As it happened, she didn't. So I do
think that they're overlooking. The critics are massively overlooking Kay Coons and Grace McKenna and Celeste O'Connor. And granted, Celeste O'Connor got done real dirty in this film in terms of how much she had to do, because she's a really good actress. Like, she was one of the very few shining beacons that was in Madam Web, because goddamn, that is bad. But she is one of those. The fact that she nailed all of her scenes that she was in this film as well. Like, she was great. But there is, I honestly think that McKenna Grace is really helping to bring in like what it was that they were looking for with 2016. Another thing that they really missed, though, is like and this again, it comes down to the people behind the film. It comes down to really Sony. When they cast that, it's like, yeah, they took 4 people from Saturday Night Live, but you know, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Howard Ramis weren't just guys from Saturday Night Live. Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray especially, these guys were, you know, people that knew each other.
Yes.
The film was rewritten over them spending weeks together getting high in Ivan Reitman's basement.
Yeah.
You know, like, this wasn't just, you know, we'll cast these 4 great people together. This was, we are casting people who know each other like the back of their hand, know how to improv and go back and forth with one another, but still remain confined to the stories, as opposed to just rolling the cameras and just seeing what we get, which is how they mainly went, as I understand it, with 2016, because they allowed them that improv nature, but they didn't have the same relationship with one another. So again, I feel the actresses were done dirty in that film, because you were trying to replicate something without understanding the actual personal relationships of those involved in the film.
I mean, someone's just saying it was let down by the editing, the 2016, I mean, let down by the editing and everything else, and maybe the direction it was going in. I'm actually surprised that Bill Murray even had a cameo.
I did as well, to be fair.
Or even Dan Aykroyd, you know.
Yeah.
But it's all under the umbrella of Ghost Corp. And even though I watched the film again because it was on BBC One the other night.
It was,
at like 10:30. Yeah. So I watched it again, and I was just like, meh, it's okay. I don't
Mm.
hate it. Speaking as a woman who's a fan, and a Ghostbuster now, obviously, I just thought it's got that piece in the puzzle to not only
Mm.
ignite the interest in the franchise again after all these years,
Yeah.
but it's also paving the way to introduce the women into the story with Afterlife and with Frozen Empire. So for me, win-win. But you've taken 4 actresses in that film who are, if you've ever watched them on Saturday Night Live, I mean, Kate McKinnon, absolutely. I
Mm.
cry with laughter when I watch them on that film, on that series at SNL, because I do watch it regularly. And you've taken these actresses who are absolutely fabulous in their own
Mm.
right. Not so much
Yeah.
Melissa McCarthy doesn't really do it for me, but
Yeah.
the other. Meh.
Yeah.
But the others, absolutely fantastic. And it was kind of like they were a little bit wasted. But
Mm.
for me, the flip side of the coin is this is a piece in the puzzle to ignite, like I say, the interest to get into the franchise of Ghostbusters under Ghost Corp. And, you're, like I say, you're bringing the women element into it.
Mm.
So, it's
Yeah.
not all
Yeah.
bad,
It redeemed itself for me being a Black Sabbath fan. The fat Ozzy Osbourne were in it, put it on a bit of a different plane for me.
Yeah, that's true. Now, with because we're talking about Frozen Empire, but I just wanted to say, with the 2016, I can't stand it, to tell the truth, but I didn't mind it. I don't like watching it, but I don't mind it. But I love the tech in it. I love
Yeah.
the tech, and I thought the tech was great. And unfortunately, with the editing of that, it seems that they were all away, and then they all came back, and they had better tech. And I was thinking, who's building this tech? Because she ain't.
It's funny that it's. I can't take credit for this because I saw someone else say it on a forum or a video or something. But Kate McKinnon's character in that, it should have toned it down a little bit. They said she'd been brilliant in this when she was in the laboratory.
Yeah.
It should have been fantastic. Someone really enthusiastic wanted to come up with all these ideas. I mean, like that gauntlet that Janine had on.
Mm.
That were very reminiscent of what we're in 2016.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if it had been sort of Kate McKinnon's character, bit out there and a bit wacky, but not quite as wacky as she were in that.
Yeah.
I think she'd have been brilliant in this. She'd have
Yeah.
really fit.
Yeah, true. Plus,
Yeah.
you got to also remember that when it came out, Sony did not know how to promote it because I can't find it now, but I wish I kept it. Sony put out a little trailer showing an original Spengler proton pack, a graphic of it being taken apart and then sort of re-put together, looking like the one from the 2016. And I was thinking, great. And it was a continuation. They said it
That's
was
right.
a continuation.
Yes.
Then they said, oh, it's not a continuation. It's and that video disappeared. And I was like, oh man, why?
That's
Why?
what that's what infuriated my wife, and I think that's one of the things that you're absolutely right. The first amount of advertising they did made it look like this was a sequel,
Yeah.
and we were passing on. And then what we got and then of course there was rumors that came out as well that Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, all of the original cut had cameos in it. So then that furthered those the advertising, and it was like, was that done on purpose to generate the interest? Did they feel like, well, we'll get them and then we'll let them know that it's a reboot, but we've got these people in? Somewhere along the lines they went massively wrong, but those first pieces of advertising and everything that was about the film was misleading. And that's when everything really, I think if they'd have just been straight at the start and we didn't have all that misleading advertising, there'd have probably, there'd have still been some negative, responses, but I bet you it would have lessened the negative responses to it, because it felt like we were teased with, oh my gosh, we're going to continue this world. And then it was ripped away from us. The way it was done as well just felt it felt like they was just being incredibly dishonest with us.
But doesn't that remind you of, isn't what's happening now? Isn't that deja vu?
Well, absolutely, just in a different way, because at least we knew what we were getting. But the trailers, absolutely.
Yeah,
there you
yeah,
go.
yeah. As Beckman says, he experienced Deja vu. Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. I
exactly.
think we could probably do a whole podcast about the 2016.
Yeah.
I can say though, all of us spoke about it in such a like. This goes to show for anyone that's part of those Facebook groups to get in, you can totally talk about 2016 without going to the ways that it becomes online. You can have conversations and disagree. You do not need to. For whatever it is, and this is a great example of that.
True, and if you bring it round to what Liam said about like an end game scenario, wouldn't it be good? And I always thought this I actually thought about this in Afterlife that Gozer was just too big, or maybe this one. So, and do you know the portal scene in Avengers? Imagine that of all different ghosts from sorry, not ghosts, Ghostbusters from different universes shooting their protons out to take one big baddie out. You know what I mean? And you saw the 2016.
Yeah, a dimensional rip, didn't they? That's what they say in films.
Exactly. You saw the 2016, and that would bring them back in. And because with good writing, you can have a really good film. We all know that. Nobody goes into making bad films. That's for sure.
On that notion, because you brought that up, one critic, big-ish issue that I do have with the new version, with these last two Ghostbusters, is how the proton stream is now more of a lasso. And just for holding on rather than actually, capturing. Like that is a big issue that I was just like that. You've got that opening scene of them chasing the New York sewer dragon, and all I was thinking was Batman 89 and him having to hook around the lamppost in order for the Batmobile to take the corner, because they're just literally hanging on for their dear lives. They're not in control of that sewer dragon. The sewer dragon is just like, what the hell is this thing that's just wrapped around me? And we've seen that repeatedly in these two new, as just like the lessening of the effect of the proton pack in itself.
It seems like nothing. It doesn't do any harm to anything.
It's just a lasso.
I brought this up too, didn't I, Jamie, on chat? Whereas I pointed out that I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but in Afterlife, he makes a comment, Ray, where he says, in first one, he said, I want my face burned off. And then in Afterlife, saying there's nothing quite shit's like however many billions of, I can't remember what he says now. But then there's a few times where Phoebe, and literally the proton beam flies past literally inches next to her head.
Yes.
Well, that spring's supposed to be really hot. And it's like inches away from her face.
And it's
and the thing is,
like
all we need is a line to explain it. We're not asking them to go into deep lore or anything, or all it needs is a line that says we did this and that made this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, because that's the beauty of this, is you just make something up and that's the reason.
The
fact that we haven't got that is just right.
Just accept it. Just go with it. And it's like, but why?
Let's be fair. All this lore and all this technology we know about were made up completely out of ether for a film in 1984.
Yeah,
and it's all developed.
Everyone was high.
True. Yeah.
I mean, I have to say though about the lasso thing. Didn't they kind of go that way with the Scoleri brothers? That was kind of a lasso.
And Slimer,
when he's kind of saying, "Hey, fat boy," sort of.
But it still creates a ball around them where it's capturing them, and they're able to, control and move, but they're fighting still.
Yeah.
It's literally just around them.
It's a video game,
and they're just carrying on, not feeling any pain or anything. Woo,
In the game, I think the actual beam drains their energy. That's why when you hold them, you can't just trap them straight away. You've got to wear them out. I think that's the idea, is that it drains the ghost energy out of them.
Yeah, true. And I tell you what, it gets on my wick on Ghostbusters, the game that's out at the moment, that Spirits Unleashed. How you've got your ghost on it, and then also overheats, and it's like, oh god, again. What? Yeah, it's annoying. And talking about the game, in the beginning of this, Frozen Empire, where Phoebe's going around and she captures a sewer dragon.
Hello, my phone's just fallen. Hang on.
And
sorry,
you
what was you saying?
The amount of damage being caused by the proton beams. I was thinking, she's looking for that trophy. That ding. Well done. Yeah.
It's a testament to age, because I'm looking at, when I watch it film, I'm thinking I'm with Walter Peck now. I'm thinking they're just blowing bits of buildings up indiscriminately.
Yeah.
How much is
Mate,
it
you
costing?
think that's something? Wait till you see the new Godzilla Kong film. Holy hell!
Yeah.
Mm.
And also, I want to talk about the Potter and Oswald. Is it Potter?
Peyton Oswald.
Patton Oswald. Yeah.
Patton Oswald.
Patton, that's it.
Is it Patton?
Patton, yeah.
Patton, yeah.
Now,
thought it was
his
Peyton,
character, well, I would have thought Ray would have knew about Goraka, you know what I mean? But it needed Patton to come in. I liked his character, the way he explained that story to it, but that's usually Dan Aykroyd's forte, isn't it?
I literally was thinking just this, and I was trying to do it on when I was watching it today, and then I rationalized it because I thought that exact thing. Then I rationalized it with, well, they used to go online and look things up. In this case, he knows a guy that knows this, so goes straight to them. So that's how I was able to like it, because I thought exactly the same thing. Because the last couple of showings I've gone in basically going, right, how could we, bring this in tighter to focus on the characters that were already in it as opposed to adding characters. And then I was just like, to be fair, Patton Oswald's only in it for a few minutes. He's not really taken up that much time. It gets us to the part of the film that I actually dislike the most, though, which is the jumping trash can or trash bag, which just kind of feels so like that was like a step too far, in my opinion. But I didn't have a problem with it because when I thought about it, because I was like, number one, he was good. You can always rely on Patton Oswalt to be good. Like, he's usually good in anything he's in. He's only in it for a couple of minutes, and there wasn't really a lot of difference than in GB1 and 2, where Egon and Ray have both said they'll look this up and they'll go look, as opposed to them having that automatic knowledge.
Yes. Yeah.
I rationaled that by the fact that you could be in any job. You're not an expert in every single thing about your job, are you? There's always someone you need to go and see. That's how I thought about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm on the fence about it. If he didn't ruin it for me as character, it was kind of like, well, he's just part of it, and he's part of that, linking up to the story about Goraka.
He was a vehicle just to get them to where they needed to go. Yeah,
exactly.
It's a bit of world building as well, isn't it? It's like it's sort of hinting at they're not the only ones that are dealing with this. There's other people that show interest.
I like the fact that we got to know a friend of Ray as well, because that was a little bit like Ray's been so on his own. Yeah. We've never really known about Ray outside. We've always just Ray and Egon, best friends. And Ray and Venkman as well. But Venkman we know is with Dana and as well. So what's Ray? Is he just a creepy old guy with children in his basement now? And so it was nice to have the fact that it's like, no, he's in on this world, and these are some people that he's friends with. Yeah. And you could really kind of see that. And so there was another little bit, because that's the biggest thing that I take from this. The thing that I loved the most about this film is the time we got to spend with Dan Aykroyd as Ray Stantz. Because and he so was, because from the little bit, and I think, and I'm not trying to talk for everyone, so please do correct me if I'm talking for you and, mistakenly, but there was a disconnect in Afterlife of how Ray Stantz reacted to Egon Spengler. Like that character, I was just like, he'd go in and at least investigate, unless they gave us some more dialogue that explained why he didn't. But, their explanation of the falling out between them never sat right with me, and it always felt like the Ray Stantz character was a little bit off in Afterlife, or this version was too far removed. And we were missing a little bit of connection here. In this film, we got Ray Stantz. We got that excited, almost, childlike excitement to when the orb is brought in and it has the reaction that it has to the PKE meter, and he's going off on one. Even in the argument with him and Winston, again, just the way he's looking, Dan Aykroyd puts on the best performance of years of any film that he's made, over the last X amount of years. He becomes the Ray that we so knew in GB1 and 2.
I think that's partly because it mirrors his own life. Because if you look at Dan Aykroyd's mega into this stuff anyway. It's not just
He's
a
my
film.
favorite person in the
Mega
world.
into it.
Yeah,
he's so I think it is an element of personality coming into that, because it is. I think Ghostbusters is. I think only other film I would ever associate Dan Aykroyd with is probably Blues Brothers. Ghostbusters. To me, they're the two franchises I know him for.
Can I say 5 of my favorite films of all time? Blues Brothers, Trading Places, obviously Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and that. Gross Point Blank. If you've never seen it, please go watch it. He plays a hitman. He is a villain in that, and he is outstanding.
Yeah. I thought he was great in Christmas with the Cranks, to tell the truth. Right?
I'll just say about before we move on, just about the Ray character though. Like you say, absolutely top form in this film. I'm glad we got to see more of him. My only bugbear really about it is when he picked up the sphere and he put the PKE meter to it and everything else, and it broke the PKE meter. His reaction was a little bit underwhelming because, well, from what we've seen in the films, that's never happened before with the PKE meter off the scale.
I know what you're talking about, but Fran, is he at that time he's like, wow, and then when he takes it to the research center, it's like, oh, yeah,
it's like he didn't care about. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. No, you're right, because I had no problems with his reaction, because I thought this is Ray, because he was excited. And Ray always had that excited childlike, he was excited to find things that were different. He got carried away. That's why his only response to the Librarian Ghost in 1 is get her. He carried away.
He got,
all of a sudden, when they're at the research center, he's like, oh yeah, this came, and he's just so blasé.
Yes.
And it's like, so it's almost like there was two, we can play it this way, we can play it that way based on where the script is. Again, it comes to the cutting and what scenes and takes they've used. It's because you're bang on, that was a big disconnect.
Yeah. Can I say my favorite scene with Ray is when he's in his occult bookstore and he's holding the orb, looking at it. Then you hear the Ecto one coming up the road, and he looks out. And he sort of gives a smile as it goes past. My heart went then.
I tried to find a gif of that, because I thought someone's got to have got this as a gif somewhere, but no one has yet. Because that was like that did more of a passing of the torch than anything, because he's still there, he's involved. And when we got that scene later on of Winston saying, "You need to find a new way to enjoy this that isn't going to kill you." Like that scene was right there that makes you feel like, he's still there, because he's still a part of this and he's still helping, he's doing his thing, but he's watching them, and that felt more like an endorsement than anything else.
To me, that is Ghostbusters. Them subtle things that, let's say growing up, I watched that growing up, and it was because they were firing weapons off and they were ghosts and things like that. It weren't until I got into my 20s that the little subtle jokes that I never got as a kid. My favourite scene in all of the films is when with the library ghost, because I never noticed it, and as soon as I noticed it, I every time I burst out laughing, I can't help it. Is when it turns into skeleton. The first thing Venkman does is push them into it. He shoves them in and he's off.
He's going like that.
And it's exactly the same in the lift. As soon as he turns it on, and you've got Egon backing into him, and he gives his look as if to say, "What the bloody hell are you doing?" And he's like, and that's what makes it, because they're not trying to be funny. It's them in the situation that makes it funny.
It's the subtle humor in '84 is just sadly it just don't really exist in modern day films. Sadly, one of my favorite scenes is them shooting a commercial and Egon looking for the X on the ground for him to step onto his spot. And he takes that, he looks for the spot. That's where I step, takes the big step, then looks up, delivers it, and then takes the back, because he's being very mechanical in his acting. That takes so much skill as well. And again, it's those little subtleties, like you say, you don't pick up when you're young watching it, but you do, especially when you're watching it for the 400th.
Yeah, my favorite scene from the original has to be in the library where he goes, "Listen," and you hear that, and he goes, "Do you smell something?" I was like, that gets me every time. You know what I mean? Listen, do you smell something? Like, what? It was so good. It's such a it's a good film. You know what I
I'm
mean?
not convinced that Ghostbusters Collector liked any of this film. Looking at the chat, man, I feel bad for you.
Yeah,
bro.
I've kind of been watching that as well, and I'm like,
Yeah,
not
to be
saying
fair,
anything.
they're having a right good conversation in it, which I wholeheartedly endorse. Please carry on. You know what I mean? Because I'm
Like,
trying to listen to it as well. Look at that and trying to balance them across.
but it's like you
Don't
say,
apologise,
there's nothing.
Collector. I just felt bad because obviously I want everyone to enjoy, you know. So.
Yeah, you do. But there's also nothing wrong with a healthy debate. No one has to be like trolling or calling anybody names or
No.
anything like that. There's nothing wrong with a healthy debate. And at the end, you just say, we agree to disagree. And that's it. And you've had a nice chat back, just like we have, here.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's
Yeah.
that's how I see it.
Yeah. Is there any other characters that we've sort of what about the Walter Peck? Did anybody get right at the end? Somebody shouted, "What about thank him,
Yeah.
ridiculous?"
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I missed that first time, but I got it the second time, and I was like, "That's where." And that this Veckman says, he goes, he says, Peck, he goes, "You clown," and I was thinking, it just did not sound right. I'm sure there's a bit more Bill Murray there.
Golden opportunity for him to say, "Did you enjoy your fruit basket?" or something like that.
Yes. Oh, did you get your fruit basket?
Anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anything
Yeah,
like that.
fine. Yeah, that would have been good. Also, I have to say that Janine, we didn't get her doing that. The iconic call.
I know.
Yeah, she's in the background. You can see her in the shot for where that was clearly cut, which is the one where they leave Phoebe behind for the first time. If you look in the background, you can actually see Janine moving around by the desk. So she clearly was the one that took that call, and that's where they had it, and that's ended up on the chopping room floor. But they couldn't cut. They blurred Janine in the background, but you can still see her when they go to that tremendous close-up of McKenna Grace and her reaction as the Ecto-1 drives out of the firehouse.
Yeah. Also, who loved Paul Rudd's rendition of the Ghostbusters theme to Carla?
That always got one of the biggest reactions in every showing that I've seen.
I mean, I laughed.
It made me smile, but I was also cringing I was like curling up in my seat. Oh my God, they didn't do that, did they? It did make me smile though.
Yeah,
it did. It's one of those cringe-worthy moments, but you still have to watch it kind of like through the fingers.
It's because Paul Rudd leads. He really leads into it, doesn't it? So it's like it takes it, because I know exactly what you feel, and I felt when I was watching the trailer, I was like, oh, but then when I watched it at the cinema, I was like, because he's so passionate, about it, and he leads into it, you go with him. His portrayal in this film, he really feels like a guy. That's the brilliance of this new cast. I really do think they all feel like Ghostbusters. I don't feel like they're just wearing jumpsuits pretending. I'm invested in them and their characters as this, and and he is perfect for this. And he plays. I believe when I see the interviews of him saying he was a fan, and then I see him in this, I'm just like, I believe you.
Yeah.
Can you remember how? Yes. Can you remember how he announced that he was going to be in Afterlife? Can you remember how he did that on Facebook Live? He was walking down the street of New York. He goes, he goes, just want to say, my next project. And he turns the camera, and there's the firehouse bound, and goes, going to be in it. And I was like, there's a fan right there. That's a fan. And it's nice to see the photos of McKenna Grace with all her toys growing up as a Ghostbusters fan as well.
I'll tell you what, she's a fantastic ambassador as well for it, because I've seen some premieres, and the time she takes to talk to kids and embracing them and really listening. You can always see sometimes actors go down these lines and they grab it like, whatever. But she's really taking time to oh, what's your name? And I think that's brilliant, because a lot of people don't do that anymore. And it's having that connections, and that's why as ghost heads and being part of a troupe, it's that having that, having been under an official franchise, being under Ghost Corps and all that, you feel a part of it all.
And having, she's she's very humble, isn't she, to
Yeah.
it? And I think she just blesses every day that she's been a part of this franchise, and you can see it.
Yes, yeah,
Absolutely.
you can. Yeah, she's magic. And when when we went to the premiere, she was they were outside signing autographs, which we didn't see because we were in the queue to get in. And then she came on stage and said a bit, and she was waving at people, and she, she was just fantastic. The only downside of it is it's 45 minutes into the film, they left. So we all hung around in the foyer going, "Oh, we're going to get some autographs here." Yeah, they're gone.
No,
But there again, how
no,
many times have they seen it? You know what I mean? But to be
yeah,
fair, I look forward to another movie with this cast. If Bill Murray was not in it, not a problem. Because to be fair, he's the best thing in Ghostbusters, but he's also the worst thing in Ghostbusters because we would have had a Ghostbusters 3 years and years ago if it wasn't for his stubbornness. But he seemed to be in it for this film. He was really in it. You know what I mean? He was just like how he usually is for the scenes that
yeah,
he was in. But if it just had Dan Aykroyd in it, and of course Winston nipping in every now and again, but it focused on this new crew, this new cast. But let's wick it down a bit. Let's take some of those needless characters out, and tighter writing maybe. You know what I mean? And you could seriously have another Ghostbusters. I really do. I want to see another Ghostbusters. I'm hoping this is not the last one.
I think if they were to tell Bill that they're going to kill him off in the next one, that he would do it. If they were to
yeah,
give him something that he could, number one, use as I'm definitely not coming back after this. Although they could still find a way, because that's the great thing about entertainment is you just make stuff up. But in his mind, it's just like, okay, that's a role that I can actually get something into because I'm going to die and my character is going to I think he would do it for that reason. I think Dan Aykroyd has spoken about how he'd love to be killed off in it. Like that's how
yeah,
he sees it.
In the film, he spoke about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
when I pitched that film idea. If they'd have built that up and the cliffhanger would have been, I don't know, Bill Murray and Lucky getting together, and they're the ones that it ends on a cliffhanger because you don't know if they're going to survive or not. And then it's about the old team coming back in the second film, and they kind of have to sacrifice themselves to make sure that this baddie's defeated because it's been built up so much. And then you probably only have Ray left, who then comes full character arc and realizes, you know what, I'm getting too old for this now. I'll take a back seat and I'll do all research for him. And that'd have been a nice arc for it all to just sort of come to a head.
Yeah, you're right there, because imagine that scene where Phoebe's spirit has just resurrected Garak, and when Lucky is doing it, Vecman is in his office watching it, going, "What the?" He's had a bit of this, and he comes and saves Lucky, but putting himself in front, killing him, and then the film ended right there. Do you know what I mean? And with that boom.
The problem is we don't have any relationship really between Lucky and Venkman.
That's true.
So it feels, you know what I mean? You would then need to, create, tighter writing involving those two, because otherwise he's just doing it.
Yes.
And it would feel too sharp. I don't agree, with, Liam's take on that, but I see elements of it. Because I would just rather they put an effort into building a bad guy that meant something. I believe that one of them could deal with just being killed by a big bad. One of them could sacrifice themselves. But I also wouldn't want to have it that you're reliant on the old boys to come back, because then you're undoing a lot of the good work that they've done in making the new cast such focal points. And then you're going to get the critics just go to town because of the fact that it's going to go real over the fact that it's bringing the old boys back too strongly. But I think that when you look at what Liam was saying earlier with regards to the end game, what made Thanos great was the fact that he got to kill main characters, Avengers.
God, yeah.
And that was great and important because we made the bad guy mean something. Sadly, Garaka feels like a Phase 5 Marvel enemy. He doesn't feel like anything that we were kind of hoping that we were going to get.
Great design.
It was such a shame because you know, a film is only as good, a hero is only as good as the villain that it beats.
Mm.
And you know, the villain here sadly was built up to be something that it then couldn't actually, you know, do.
I kind of went into that film fully wide open to the option that possibly Venkman or Ray dies. I would have had a really good buoy about it, and I brought plenty of tissues with me for that moment.
Yeah.
But I was fully open and to the idea of that actually happening, because you know, you can only milk something for so much, and like you say, after a while, if you keep milking something, it becomes a bit cheesy.
Also, it's just good. It's just storytelling as well.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I
like,
mean,
they're old boys. They can't keep making. Even if
No.
this film would have made $300 million, they can't keep doing it. Ernie
No.
Hudson's 78 years old, despite the fact that he looks better than all of us. Like, that man, like,
Can I just say that his speeches felt like somebody had paid him to say it's on Cameo?
well,
I've had a message from him on Cameo. I've had a message from him, and it was just like that. Yeah.
All right. Just the other thing as well. Do you know how they gave that Golden Year speech? When he said that, I was thinking, I wonder if this is like that Scream analogy where they say whenever somebody ever says, "I'll be right back," and they're not. I thought, and then when they're all on the containment system to pull down, he goes, "Golden Years," and those ice spikes came out. I thought, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's one of them.
They had so many little chances, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like you say, there were so many little nods to come on then. You're sitting there going, okay, it's going to happen now. I'm bracing myself, like ready. And missed opportunities that I think. I mean, look at Afterlife. I mean, so Spengler sort of he took the whatever the flak for Gozer. He was fully prepared to sacrifice himself for in the beginning, and you think, okay, I am having a buoy at the moment, but it's justified. It fits in with the story really well. And if one of the main OGs would have died in this one again, it's totally plausible. And again, it doesn't make Garaka seem as threatening as, you know, this is meant to be a big new baddie, you know, and taking over the world and blah blah blah. It's like, how powerful is he really? When don't mean to be negative, but no one really died of any significance.
You're no one that you cared about. The only person that we actually see die is the guy in the Firemaster. Shop, the vape place. That is the only
vape place. Yeah. Is that trying to show about vapes? Is that they're trying to make a point there? You know what I mean? Why the vape shop? And that was the other thing.
Just because of the title, Firemaster. They were just looking for a reason for him to find someone that has a link to the word Firemaster to show that he's looking for the Firemaster.
Yeah.
So that's the reason. So it's like, well, what's popular right now? Well, you know, there probably was things that they probably wouldn't be able to show cigarettes because it's PG-13-12, but they can show vapes. So knowing how.
But for me, you know,
it's like they couldn't show a death other than unless they've been frozen already.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there was a key part missing of that. It's like, okay, there's icicles coming up from the sea and they're going up a beach. And then suddenly there's a shot to the firehouse and the ice is going up there. If they'd had a bit more, just a few more minutes about the progression of the damage that this baddie was doing, to make it, he's larger than life, he's, we're scared sort of thing. I think they could have thrown in a bit more about what happened once Garaka came to the firehouse and had like the final battle. I just feel that again, that's just something that could have just taken a couple of extra minutes to make him
have his ghost coming down the road. You know what I mean? Saw him coming down.
Why did it take him so long to bloody get there? What route did he take? Like Phoebe's able to take apart part of the pole, burn it down, start doing some brass plates, let it cool down, put it all back together.
Exactly.
He's gone to the beach. He's like, what's up here? We in Clacton? What's going on?
I don't know, but they had British accents on that big wheel, so I don't really know.
Like,
it might have been Margate. I don't know.
I was just like, what?
No, Southend on Sea. That's what it was.
Yeah. They'd know all about that. Yeah.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they would.
Christ, this boy's taking a while to get here. I thought he
Yeah.
was trying to bring about. Instead,
Yeah.
he's gone on a guided tour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, there is a guided tour around New York. Has he not seen the map?
Yeah, it would have been cool if they had more of Garaka and what had happened before he got to the firehouse, just to think,
Yes.
oh my
Yeah.
God, he's scaring us, the audience, and we could sort of anticipate in the battle that he's going to have at the end. They're going to have
Yes.
their work cut out, but you didn't really see much of what else he could do, really.
That
Yeah.
from promotional material, it looked like the whole of New York were frozen. I thought that bit in the trailer where it shows him at the beach and that, I thought that were going to be right at the beginning. He escapes, and then the whole film is them. And I thought it might be set. The film might have been set over a period of months, so it shows how bad things have got.
Agreed.
And it was so ragtag that they just had to get everyone together and go, look, what we're going to do.
I think it comes down to that cutting and editing again, because there was lots of things I thought we were going to get a story that had some sort of elements of Predator in the heat, because the heat wave was such a big thing of the trailer. And when you're watching the film, again, I've seen it 9 times, so I've noticed a lot of things by this point. There is a lot of subtle remarks to just how extra hot it is this summer, but then doesn't actually end up paying off in anything.
Yeah.
When you guys watch it a few more times, you'll start picking up on even more and even more and even more, because it is in there actually quite a lot, but it never pays off. It doesn't mean anything. It's just, it's just really hot. So I think you're absolutely right. I think that there was more about that in the original screenplay of this, or the screenplay that was filmed, that again, that element of the story just got cut.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the lines it says. It literally scares people to death. And you think, well, no, actually, he blows ice at them. That's what he does.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see more of this power that you're talking about in the myths and the folklore,
Yeah. When you think about it, in Ghostbusters 1, you had the Staples Marshmallow Man walking down the street and everyone reacting to him. Then you had the Statue of Liberty walking down the street and everyone reacting to it. Right? Yeah, of course. But you did see the ghosts in Afterlife, going around the village, the streets. But I was expecting this to be coming down the street, freeze. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being sort of a dark entity coming down, just spikes everywhere. But it just did not live up to. It just popped up out of the ground when he needed to be. You know what I mean? Unless he popped up and went, ha! Oh, wrong place.
Re-emphasising the fact at the beginning with firefighters frozen. They could have done that as a coming that street, people literally freezing where they stood.
Yes. There would have been elements with regards to how they could have portrayed that though and kept the rate in. They would have been there's a lot of,
because like you said, it's the cutting room floor thing, because like the Endor Afterlife, it ends with a containment unit. You think, oh, something's going to happen there. That's going to lead into the next film, and then it's building that, and it almost, like I say, it felt like 2 different films. You've got a threat containment unit that never really seems to pay off in this. It opens a little bit, but you think, well, that was set up in last film. So you've brought.
Well, that's okay. They can set stuff up to then pay off.
Oh, they can, but it almost felt a film in itself. Like they could have had a film. The containment unit lets out, and they've got to recapture all. So then you could have had an entire film of capturing ghosts we've never seen before, because they've captured it in between films. We've never seen some of these things.
40 years. He says that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Also, that in itself was a bit of a problem. Every time I've heard them say, so you've been capturing ghosts in here for 40 years, it's like, no, not really. There isn't 40 years worth of ghosts. But one thing I did feel was such a shame is when the containment unit does open and ghosts escape, is what they look like. They're all just shadows of, you know, it's just like,
it reminded me of the scene in Indiana Jones when they opened the Ark. That's what that looked like to me.
There was
just a rehash.
There was no identifiable or even fresh or new looking ghosts coming out. They were all just shadow ghosts, you know. And it was just exactly that, Jamie. It was just
it needed a montage like it were in Ghostbusters 2 with Titanic showing up and people walking off it. And that's what it needed. It needed
the ghost were made kind of feel, because a lot of the push on this was every ghost they've ever caught is now, and it's just like they caught a lot of boring ass ghosts, didn't they?
I want to see the taxi skeleton ghost. Come on.
Agreed on that.
Yeah, yeah, there is.
I mean, they're before we move on, I'm just thinking as well, that's kind of contradicting what they kind of said in Afterlife as well, because when they're watching the old footage and Grubison's going, oh yeah, this is a real trap, do you not know about it? And they said, oh, this is what, you know, the thing that happened in 1984. And then he says, and a ghost hasn't been seen since like the 80s. Yet they're saying every ghost for the last 40 years has been caught in here. And just like,
every single
that's their nod to the 40th anniversary, but you're contradicting what you said in Afterlife. It's like,
there's a lot of
that was just a little bug with me, you know.
Also, it made me it made me think. Do you know, with Melody and when podcaster shoot it, she goes it, and I was thinking, ooh, are they collecting human ghosts to put their spirits in the machine? Yeah, I mean, they're sort of like a prison, a virtual, like a spiritual prison, instead of trying to release them.
That went through my mind. I wanted to rewatch.
Yeah, and I was thinking, well,
because I was then like, well, they have done it before. There's the runner in Ghostbusters 2 in the montage there,
just running.
So, but it did seem like, considering how the movie starts off with, the old woman and her husband Harold, nice throw to Harold Ramis, of course, in the name check there.
Yeah.
There, it's her saying, well, the spirit is, Dan Aykroyd says, spirits can tie themselves to something. Of course, that's Melody's character. She's tied to the matches that burnt her family. And so we know that these are actually, humans, who have passed on, that are attached to these items. Whereas in previous, but we've also been told in previous Ghostbusters that some of the ghosts, like Slimer, they're actually a collection of things left over that come together to make this ghost. It's not a deity or a person. It's it's something else. And then we've also had the explanation that there is cross-dimensional beings as well. So it's not really so much Ghostbusters but Monster Busters in a way that is linked into it. So but it brought up that I had that same thought, which is, so some of these ones that are being trapped are actually innocents that just need to be, like Melody's character just needs to light the match and let go of the item that she's attached to. Like that seems to it. But instead we're trapping them and sticking them somewhere for them to be stuck in, basically.
Yeah. It
Which
made me
I bet
really
made sense, though. I bet you they had a version of this that made sense and did explain, but again, was one of the variations that was filmed, edited, cut, and shut down and disappeared.
Yes, of course. And the other thing as well with Melody's ghost, when she finally let go and she was going to be made into the fabric of the universe, I feel like the way they edited it, they want you to get that same feels that you had with the Harold passing. With Egon, his character, but it just wasn't there.
Well, they wanted sympathy on Phoebe because it was the story of that relationship with Phoebe, and which was rushed and cut, as we spoke about earlier. So like I don't know if they necessarily wanted the same, but but they wanted you to certainly have sympathy for Phoebe's character. The problem is you couldn't help but think they're going for the same based on it because of the way that it was presented. And it being involved again with Phoebe, even though really the first film is more about the relationship between father and daughter, and it's just the granddaughter that links them. But it's more a daughter coming to terms that that her father wasn't the person that she thought.
Yes,
he wasn't. He wasn't around. So the relationship there, the hug between Callie Coon's character and the ghost of Egon, that is really what it is on that first one. But because Phoebe is the driving force of the movie, we attach it to her so much that even though this is supposed to be her moment, where more so than in the first film, it's still too similar to that first film that you can't help but think they're going for this.
That's true. I've got a nitpick that's just come to mind, which I've checked about 4 or 5 times because I was thinking surely that it's got to be either a dialogue error or a writing error. But when they turn up at the library, podcast goes fortitude and patience, or it could be the opposite way around.
Patience and fortitude,
and then when they blast one, I think they blast.
The one that he said was the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Winston goes, "Yo, why did you shoot?
Why did you
Fortitude
blast
in the-"
Fortitude in the
It
face?
was like,
Yeah.
that wasn't him. I was thinking,
It was
"God, they got that
patience.
wrong." It's patience,
Yeah.
yeah. They
Yeah,
got
it
rid of
was.
patience, and they brought it back. They brought it back. I
Yeah.
was like, what the hell? And
Yeah,
can I
They
the
also
rebuilt
that
it.
didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it just seemed weird, didn't it? And I
Yeah.
also want to say is I'm so like I can't believe you know when it comes to special effects, I love the effects that you don't notice. And the effects, remember that the firehouse was in studio. All those effects, all those outside shots of the New York Library, the firehouse with the van outside with the street when Peck came, all green screen. It's all CGI. It's all been
Yeah.
built. And I was like amazed how they recreated all of that inside. And I thought to myself, would it be great, consider it was built in England? Wouldn't it be great if they did like a wonderful, our wonderful world of Harry Potter, but they did a similar thing for Ghostbusters in this country? So
It'd be-
people like us who can't afford to go to New York to the real thing could go and see the firehouse in studio. Do you
It
know
would
what I
be
mean?
cool.
Yeah.
It's just I
Mm.
think the best chance we've got of that happening is of the new Universal studios that they're building.
Oh
is it
yeah,
in
Bedford.
Bedford,
yeah.
yeah.
And that'll be the best bet, that we've got, because obviously, as mentioned, Ghostbusters isn't a big enough franchise to get any of its own kind of place. But hopefully at Universal Studios, they'd be remiss to not include something from Ghostbusters at the new Universal Studios world in Bedford when that gets completed. I would imagine.
Didn't they have something where you went in? It was like you actually had it was like a VR experience, and you went in.
Yeah.
That I'm sure there was something like that were advertised all over Facebook at one point. And they just seemed to vanish.
There's one of those. There is like a VR Ghostbusters game that you can play in a couple of places. There's one in London at the moment, but it's very peculiar. It does feel like this is we've just put the Ghostbusters name to another game, and it's actually not very linked to it at all. One thing I will say about this, just on the notion when you talk about CGI and the location of everything, one thing this film had compared to the other films is this film felt smaller. Because of the fact that so much of the film is just either in Ray's bookshop, in the firehouse, some of it is in the in Peck's office, and that's pretty much about it as far as locations. There's the library, but there's no out and about really. It's all very enclosed, and obviously that would have been done really to keep the budget, as small, because the budget's higher for this one. But it's really only higher because of the basis that when you do a sequel, it's in the contract of not just the performers, not just the stars, the actors, but also with the crew, that everyone gets a bump in price and cost. Their wages will go up for the sequel. So the cost of this film is $100 million, so that is a $25 million increase, which would make sense based on, but it's actually still quite it feels quite within only a certain, a limited number of places that we actually see this film take place. And I feel that, again, when it comes to, although not necessarily that one or two or one especially is that different, but the montage has really helped us get a better feel of the landscape and just how big of a problem and how this was taken over, New York. We never really got this, and I think that was just one of the things where all we needed was a little montage. I do think a montage would have helped.
Yes, absolutely.
To just show us a little bit more. But again, time was. You started this podcast off saying that they started recording this a year ago, and here we are in its second week of release. Like, we know the story of how tight 84 was. This makes 84 look like they had all the time in the world. And that is quite and I think that links into a lot of the problems. Like I said earlier, that the reason why I'm going to see it is so I can spend as much time with characters as I love as possible. I'm looking at the most recent up-to-date figures of this film, and I'm comparing it to Afterlife, and currently, because it opened up $1 million above, but it's now sitting at about $15 million behind where Afterlife was this time into its release after 10 days, which is a significant drop. And that is a problem. That is not going to do well when you mix the fact that it's going to have a significant lower income, than Afterlife.
Yeah.
And the critics' response was significantly worse than Afterlife.
Yes.
And the audience response was significantly worse than Afterlife.
Yeah.
It doesn't bode well for there being a third one. When you factor in that the cost will go up again because everyone's price will go up for a third film.
Yeah.
So unless they then try to bring the actual making costs down even more, and then you're starting to struggle, potentially a little bit more. So, I don't have a lot of, as we were just talking about, like things coming like next, like looking at where this is right now, it's done a 65% drop compared to last week. And that is a massive drop. Usually 65 plus is you only get for horror films, because horror films always open strong, but then everyone's kind of seen it in its first week. Obviously, there's the odd, ones that are different to that, but usually a horror film will open strong, same as an anime film. It'll open strong, it might even be number one, but then the following week it'll have like a 65-75% drop. Ghostbusters did not have that. Afterlife did not have anywhere near that drop in the first one. This one, a huge drop weekend to weekend, which means it's going to start losing screens sooner.
Yes, it will.
Films coming out, and that's going to impact its final budget. I've had a number of people on the Facebook groups that don't understand this industry say to me, "Oh, there's still some international markets that it hasn't opened up in. It's going to do well." Ghostbusters is not a big international film. It's not a big international franchise. It's not a big international earners. None of the Ghostbusters films that have been out previously have ever earned more internationally combined than what it's earned in the United States or North America. This is not going to be any different. Even in the UK, its opening weekend, UK compared to that of Afterlife, was over $500,000 difference, which because of the size of the UK, that may not sound like a lot, but because of the size, that is a lot. Because you're talking $5.7 to $5.1 million difference. So it's actually $600,000 difference, which is significant. And in the States, Kung Fu Panda 4 was already out. That's already been out for 2 weeks in the US. We got it released this weekend at the same time as Godzilla and Kong. That is two big films taking up screens, taking up the premium screens, hence why it's going to be difficult to go see it in 40X or any of the other premium formats again. Because you've got these two big films coming out at exactly the same time. So that's why I could say, by the end of this run, and I hope it lasts as long as it can, I will probably have seen this film 20-25 times. And I'm doing that because of the fact that I don't know. And I would say it's highly unlikely, based on all of the metrics that we've got right now, that we will get a sequel. So I'm just going to spend as much time with these characters that I love in a place that I love, which is the cinema, as much as I can.
Just going on what you just said there, I've just checked or looked at listings now, and there is literally one 4DX showing between now and Tuesday. Literally one.
Leicester Square?
No, this is at my local one.
Oh, that's your local. Go. Go, brother. It. Go. Because it's a great 4DX experience.
Yeah, please. And anybody else listening, just go and see it. And what you were saying as well about the they should have the Harry Potter experience thing. You have to think that franchise is so much bigger than Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
as well. So the demand is there. It's about supply and demand. And it's like if they were to open up something like that at Universal, that might be a bit of a ding dong with Sony or whatever to get that.
Well, in the UK, sorry, Karen.
Would it make as much as the Harry Potter thing, or even if they did like a guided tour of Pinewood Studios, because this is where a lot of Star Wars was shot, or something like that, you're talking about franchises where you've got like Galaxy's Edge, haven't you, at California, and stuff like that, and they make their money because the franchise is so much bigger. I'm Ghostbusters till I die, like anybody else on here, but you've got to think about the supply and demand and what sort of money that something like that would make in the UK.
This year at Florida in Universal Studios Scare, for the October Scarefest or whatever, they are doing a 40th anniversary ghost house of Ghostbusters.
Well, it's the Haunted Mansion ride. It's the Haunted Mansion ride that's being repurposed as a Ghostbusters. ride. Is basically what they're doing there. So it's it's adding that IP to something that's, because the thing is right, even though it's not as big, so long as it's not its own thing, but it's part of an attraction, it'll add value to it. So as part of Universal, they're absolutely going to put Ghostbusters in there, or or whatever group that they can license that, they're going to put Ghostbusters in there without a doubt. They just would never do its own thing because that's too much of an outlier. But just in terms of a licensing, you'll get things like Ghostbusters in there without a doubt, because they're going to want. It's like when all the streaming wars started. Everyone was quick and desperate to get as much IP on there as possible to make it seem like it's added value. That's what it's going to be like when this opens. They're going to want as much recognizable IP in there as possible. So you'll absolutely get this, but that's nowhere near the outlay that it would be for a big thing of its own. So yeah, anything along those lines where it's multiple things, we'll get Ghostbusters in there, because it's still.
And this is why I'm trying to do this Ghostbusters 40th anniversary immersive experience in a firehouse, because if I just had a normal building like, I don't know, like the NEC or something like that, for me it wouldn't work. The whole idea would not work. I'm trying to do something that a little bit different. I'm trying to bring that on a tiny fraction, maybe 0.1% scale of Harry Potter world, but into people from the UK Ghostbusters community. And you've got to travel maybe to do it, but it's going to be in a firehouse. It's got green tiles. It's got wooden lockers.
I'm in a my real job is like I'm a live events producer. The key word that I like that you use was immersive, because that's what we're selling nowadays is experiences. And that is what we call. You cannot. The idea of being in a firehouse doing that is cool, because the firehouse in itself, the firehouse is a character, and although it wouldn't be the firehouse, just getting it. How many times can you say, "Oh, we can go down and tour the firehouse near here"? You can't. So that's an added value of going to it in itself, and then you add the Ghostbusters IP and everything attached to it.
It's the Millennium Falcon, isn't it? It's like the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars. It's a character. If you didn't have the Millennium, you wouldn't have Star Wars. You ain't got the firehouse, you ain't got Ghostbusters.
And probably more so since Frozen Empire, because what you were saying earlier, well, just a little bit earlier, about how it didn't move around as much around New York or the world or whatever, how it's been affected. A lot of it was set in the firehouse, and like the final battle, and a lot of the key scenes were in the firehouse. So again, I thought that might be the right time after seeing it. The same day that I saw Frozen Empire, on the opening day on Friday, I went straight to that firehouse afterwards and did that video that I put out there. And just walking back in there, just fresh from seeing that film literally minutes earlier, I just thought, I've got to do it. I've got to move hell and high water to do this, because it's a missed opportunity, because a lot of that film that's just been out was also set in the firehouse, and it's very 1984 dilapidated firehouse. Just adds to it,
You know, cost at Firehouse Lego is going to go through the roof now, don't you?
I do apologize, guys, but I do actually have to, and I don't want to go. I want to make that point. But my other job is actually as a YouTuber, and I've got to start my own stream in about 10 minutes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was just about to say, should we just jump on to final thoughts? What you got to do, what you got to say about it. Just final thoughts quickly, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up.
I don't feel like you got to stop for my taking, just so you know. You guys go. I just don't want to be the reason that you.
Oh yeah, but I have to get your details from you before you go. Well, look me up on if you're not friends with me on Facebook already.
Jamie's got my details. So you can add us on Bookface.
Okay, just to talk to you about this immersive thing. But I'll just quickly say final thoughts. Absolutely loved it, but I think I just think Gil Kenan should stick to writing and not directing. I think it might have gone in a different. He's a great writer. I love him. He's great. He writes for SNL and everything else. And
the Ghost House.
I
love Ghost House.
Yeah. Such brilliant writer.
Monster House.
That's it. Yeah. But a lot going on. Too much for me going on. Like I say, I came out of there like, whoa! It wasn't one of those films that just grabbed me straight from the start, like the original 1 and 2, or even, dare I say it, 2016. I was watching it the other night, and I'm like, you've got to admit, this kind of like, even though the story is crap and rehashed, it
Mm,
kind of grabs you from the start, and it's pretty so bad you've got to keep watching it.
yeah.
And
True.
Firehouse for me was like, I'm like lost now. There's too much going on. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, but I loved it. You know, like I say, Ghostbusters till I die, and I think there was a lot of missed opportunities in this film.
Okay.
That's all I'm
Hold,
gonna say, and it could have
hold
been
on a
longer.
second. Hold on a second, Fred. Because Dan really does need to go. Dan, thank you for coming on. I must admit, it's been absolutely fantastic. I've really enjoyed tonight. I've enjoyed your input. It's been fantastic. Where can our viewers find more of you on YouTube or
So I don't
social?
do anything Ghostbusters online, sadly. That is my
That's good because I can do it.
yeah, like that is my personal that is me,
Yeah,
that is not work me.
but you're welcome
Um
back.
well, I would love to do it again. Like
Yeah.
I've loved this. I've loved meeting and chatting to you all.
Mm.
I love the fact that we all bring in something, different and like different views. Like Liam and I are on different pages of certain things and on the same pages of others. And I love that because
Yes.
in no way will I ever profess to try to push my thing above. I love discussing and love being proved wrong as well. I love learning. So my real job is I run women's wrestling, burlesque, and cabaret nights, and YouTube as well. So so I'm not entirely sure that what I do in my real life will translate over from the Ghostbusters world. But if you did want to see me, or if you wanted to join my next stream, it's search Eve Riot Girls of Wrestling, and you'll see me and my wife on there,
Sweet.
and you'll see some of our live shows streamed over the next few weeks as well. So yeah, that's where you can find me, or just at Dan Reed on the old Twitter, which is just me. But I'll be honest, most of the time on social media, I'm just doing work stuff and not stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Do you know what, Danny? It's been brilliant, absolutely fantastic. And I'll tell you what, we'll definitely have you on yet again, and definitely want to carry on chatting because your input was just fantastic. I've enjoyed it. So
I appreciate that. It's generally been
No
a
worries.
joy to be a part of. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for joining us. You can go into the ether
I
now.
will. I will. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Lovely.
Right,
Bless
it
him.
was
It's
absolutely
lovely.
great. It was great. Fern, is there anything else you want to say? 'Cause I'm sorry, I had to cut you
No,
off.
I
Like,
just
you really did
think
need
it.
to go.
No, I know. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just think it could have been longer. I would have happily have sat there and taken another 20 minutes of Ghostbusters
Yeah,
any
I think
day
I
of the
could have
week.
done as well. To be fair, it
Um,
seems to go really fast. It's really
yeah.
fast.
I mean, we haven't really touched on James Acaster's character, I know,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah.
again, there was a lot of intrepidation when they announced him as a cast member, and then there was a lot of these, oh, he's going to be Oscar, he's going to be this, that, and the other. I don't think it would have been totally ruined if he would have turned out to be Oscar, and whoever his dad would have been or whatever. But I thought he actually. I haven't really seen him in much. He used to be on Mock the Week, I think, and stuff like that. And he's got a very dry sense of humour, and I'm not sure if that would have sort of related to the younger viewers, like the kids or whatever, because of the sort of things he's done in the past. But I actually thought his character was all right.
I did as well. I liked his character,
Yeah.
even though at the end he sort of like just disappeared, and then he suddenly turned up and he goes, "Did we win?"
Yeah.
Which yeah. So
I think a few characters did that through film, though, didn't they?
yeah, they did. It was
Yeah.
like a Lewis Tully moment. You know what I mean? It's like he was wrote. It's like you could say if they had Lewis Tully in, that's the role he would have been playing.
Yeah.
I do have to say that James Acosta's mates who were in my screening were noisy. They were noisy during the performance. I was thinking, God damn, yeah, I know your mate's in it, mate, but please shut up. I'm trying to watch the film. And when he stood on stage, he really didn't have much to say. To be fair, he went, yes, hello, and then he passed the mic back. He didn't really have much to say. But I enjoyed his character. I must say, I really did enjoy his character. How he portrayed it and the way he did it, I liked him. And of course, he got to wear a red parka. How many people wore red parkas? Can you remember?
I was just
in this?
going to say that actually. Can we remember Lucky wore one, didn't
One,
she?
yes.
James.
2, yeah. Phoebe put one on when she was cold. 3.
That
That's
was
it.
it. I think that's it.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
But
And those
but
Parkers
but
were like,
but what
what's that?
Waxley still came
£1,000
out on
each.
top. I know Waxley still came out on top, and they got away with just showing 3 Parkers.
They made a killing, an absolute killing.
Yeah.
And well, bearing in mind, I have to say, A Logistics, they were kind enough to send us one of his, and his was absolutely fantastic quality. And
Yeah.
I know you can get isn't there like an Alex, is it Alex one? I know Peter's got one, and Peter's still in the chat. Pete, what's the name of your red Parker who sent it to you? He probably put it in. He's part of my red Parker. There you go. He says it. I love my red
Oh yeah.
Parker. Yeah. That's it. Good old Pete. Straight there. Alex
Alex
Gear.
Gear.
Alex Gear.
Yeah.
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 One, and I think I've seen 2 versions: a cotton one and one that looks like it's made from like a parachute material. And everyone goes, "Oh no, go for the cotton one," which is what Alex wore, and what Peter wore, and I thought his was bloody good quality. You know what I mean? And his
Yeah.
patch with his name was sewn onto it, so and it was a good price. To be fair, you don't need to buy a Saber one, a Wexley one.
No, I
Tim-
actually bought mine off Amazon, which was
Yeah.
and the South End on Sea Boys put me onto the link, because I first saw theirs at an event for Immersive Game Box.
Yes.
When after they'd done the trailer with ho ho ho, and all that,
Mm.
and because they had the part on the film, which we can all talk about now as the extras, they got the jackets from the crew, and it actually said Firehouse on it, and they're actually from Amazon, and they're what, 25 quid. So
Yeah.
when I saw them at the event and they had these, they said to me, try it on. Obviously, it was massive on me because I tried on Kieran's jacket. But I just said immediately, oh my God, I can't believe this is 25 quid from Amazon. It's so warm and the quality is so good.
It is good.
So then I went out and bought it, and then I just modded it myself. And
Sometimes
I
that's
love
part
it.
of the charm of it as well, is when it's personal to you, when it's not just something you've bought ready made. Part of the charm of it is because you've took the time and effort to actually make it look what it's supposed to.
Well, yeah, it's like what I've done with this one, because I'm a big chap. So I got so this is my, you can see it there. So this is the one with my engineer, and I like Jolets, you know what I mean? I do. And I love this with the pockets and everything. And it looked just like a jacket, but of course a gilet. And I was thinking I could wear this, put the badge on so that instead of there, it's there. I can put the black across here, and I've got the little buckles to put underneath this pocket. And then not only am I showing this, but I'm also showing, sorry, it's on that side, isn't it? It's showing this badge. And like you say, Liam, it's the cosplay element. It's make it, your own, which that's what I love about it, is, making it your
You
own.
kind of like, I love what you've done there with the gilet, because I'm not one of these politically correct people that says, oh, it's not exactly the same, it's not a Waxley, it's not there. But I love what you've done there, because to me, in my eyes, immediately I just see Back to the Future meets Ghostbusters crossover.
Yeah,
How good would that be? How cool.
Yeah. At least the best thing about the jackets is we don't have to get wet or freeze and can still look screen accurate. So we'll be grateful to accept that, then cut out of the film or not. Yeah. Okay. And also, can I just say that anybody that's got the there's mine just there. See, can you see? It's just there. The HasLab proton are now screen accurate. They are all screen accurate packs now. Because they've actually been in the film. In fact, some of the like the original crew, they are wearing HasLab packs. And Liam, your HasLab, the kit that you shown us today, I was like blown away with it.
I've only touched the surface of it. I mean, I spent last night putting electrics in. I've got my wand, but I can't go through half at menus yet until I've got my wand in place.
Man,
So it's GP Stars one that I'm installing. It's phenomenal. The stuff it can do is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
And just upgrading them speakers alone, the sound that comes out of it it rumbles. The actual sound makes the pack. You don't need rumble on. The sound itself makes the pack rumble. It's brilliant.
Looks amazing. Fred, have you got a proton pack?
Yeah, I've got the HasLab.
You've got the
With
HasLab one.
with the Spengler wand, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Liam, I'll have to send the video to you because Liam sent it to me. But this kit is phenomenal, with the lights and the system. And when you just pulled it apart and put it back in, you had that whoop, 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 and I was like, my God, it made me think I'm gonna have to buy that. I've got about 4 or 5 kits now around that I've bought for that. I've not even installed them. I've got to go around to Mike's because he's really good at electronics. But now I've seen yours, Liam. I'm like, I'm going to chuck them in the bin.
Oh, mate, honestly, I'm looking at. I bought this. I've got kit, and I'm thinking I need to install it soon. And then last night I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to just go at it. And they've got instructional videos they do where you can follow step by step, and it is so easy. And I put it in last night, and I've one of them, you know, when your heart sinks. I put it in last night, and nothing happened. I'm like, you're joking. Don't tell me I've just killed it. And I realised my talent cell weren't charged. So I charged that overnight, plugged in this morning, and that video I sent you.
Yes.
And it's phenomenal. It's absolutely brilliant.
I must admit, I'm like, I've got to get. And like I say, Fern, I'll send it to you. And if Liam's okay, if he sends me a couple, you know, as he's done it, I'll put them together and I'll whack it onto our pages, onto the Yorkshire division, as well as the podcast, so other people can find out. Now we've been going for nearly 3 hours. I think that's about it. I think there's nothing more we can cover, unless Liam, what have you got? That's it. We've not, you know, get your final thoughts on it, mate, because you were spit on with yours.
I liked it. I did like it. It's obviously it's Ghostbusters, so I'm going to like it. I think it's sort of the law you've got to, haven't you? There is some big problems with it, but as a whole, I want to see things continue. But what I'd like to see him do is a bit of a mixture. I think when you've got people like Finn Wolfhard and all that, they've got nothing to do, and they're going to be demanding big figures now. So that's a big chunk of change that's coming out of it. And when they've got nothing to do, it's opportunities that could be wasted for someone else. So I think they need to scale it down, lower budget, even possibly put it in a different country, because all this ghost threat is all happening in New York. It's not happening anywhere else. You know, and there's so much they could do with it and just scale it down and have unnamed actors, people that you can't picture them and say, oh well, they were all right in this. So you can immerse yourself and believe that they are who they are because they're unknown. You've never seen them in anything before.
Yeah, and he says it in the film, doesn't he? The franchises alone.
Yeah. And I think it's got legs. Yeah, it's got legs. It just needs to be. It needs a studio to take a risk on it and think, if we invest this much money and we make X amount back, it's a success. I think it just needs something to push it forward a little bit, because, and I'm not blind to the fact that in that showing I went to see, the vast majority of people in there were kids, and I get it. This film is now gearing towards grabbing a new audience. I get that, but then I think back and think, well, the original weren't geared towards me, but I grew up with it, and it became part. I've got ecto goggles, I've got traps, I've got a proton pack downstairs being upgraded. I've got figures, I've got you name it, I've got it. And that original film never meant for me. So where did they take it? You know.
Yeah, that's true. I just want to put this on because it made me smile. Leeds says, if the film had been as long as this podcast, it would have probably made more sense.
Yes.
I'm gonna star you that one. Thank you for that, Leeds. Yeah, I have to agree with you, Liam. And there has been talk that Dan Aykroyd has said where he would like the next one to go, and it would be Ghostbusters International. He wants to bring it to the UK. Well, the film was filmed in the UK, but he wants Scotland. Yeah, I mean, the ghosts, because Britain would have far more paranormal activity than America when you think about it, because we've been here longer.
Oh yeah, but look at York. York itself, you've got Romans, Vikings, you've got all sorts that could go on there.
Can you imagine that?
It would. I mean, if if Bill Murray was to be in the next one, if they really want to milk it for all it's worth, he wouldn't care about going to Scotland anyway, because he usually plays golf up at Glen Eagles,
That's
so
right.
he's in his element.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you know, you could even have. There's nothing stopping you having a film and a TV series now. A TV series, just like what Apple did with the Kong, Godzilla and Kong, with the Monarch
Yeah.
story. You know, being sort of in it but not. You could have the original Ghostbusters team going off finding objects and going. You know, there's something happening in the UK. You've got to get it and request them, and then the film could then link into it. There's no end of potential.
I could
And
see the TV series being a lot like Supernatural, and it's
yeah,
a different ghost or a different monster every week, but it's all got it all accumulates to an end story. But
yes,
you could have it quite dark, but with its comedic elements to lighten it up a little bit. I think it'd be brilliant. I think you get
yeah.
more fans doing it that way than you would asking people to sit down for 2 hours to watch a film.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Right then, I think that's about it. I want to say thank you to my wonderful guests, for Dan for coming on as well, and Fern, absolutely fantastic. Thank you. You know,
The voice of the female Ghostbusters here,
which I have loved. We've always loved to get a female on board and talk about Ghostbusters. Hey, you want to come on and talk about Star Wars? We'll have you on.
oh god, yeah, all day long.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And Liam, thank you, my friend, for coming on. I know it was you had to take your daughter home and trying to get on that. I was thinking, is he going to make it? I'm glad you managed to get onto it. I was thinking, to be fair, I've been stuck in the attic till about about 6:30. And I was like, I looked at me, and I was like, oh my God, where's the time going? So I've had to rush down and try and get everything all right and get it on, and it's come together fantastic. I want to give a big shout out to the people in the chat as well. They have been having a fantastic chat all together, and I'm hoping that I'm not too sure if you guys can see that chat as well, but I think Dan,
I see odd ones pop up, but I can't see chat.
all
Yeah.
right. Perhaps Dan had it on YouTube then, because if you go onto YouTube, that's where all the chat is. So he must have had, because he did say to me that he's been reading the chat, so he must have had YouTube up. He must have better internet connection than I have. But they have been having an absolutely fantastic time. Let's just nip to one here. Leeds again said, can you imagine them chasing the ghosts of Glenfire's Bobby around Edinburgh? That would make a fantastic sequel to the Greyflies Bobby DVD that I've got. And also he says, a Ghostbusters collector. How about an animated sequel set in the early 90s with the original team? Real Ghostbusters. We've already had that. But that might be coming back, because it has been announced we are getting a Netflix animated series. And Ghostbusters collector also says, they say the animated show is going to be a new take on Ghostbusters. Well, to be fair, the real Ghostbusters was a new take. It was same as the old, but new, if you know what I mean. And they even, if you remember, one episode referenced them making a Ghostbusters film with a firehouse in studio. If you remember it, if you can remember the episode from back in the day. Yeah, so just absolutely fantastic. Pete, Ghostbusters collector, Leeds. We've had Leeds, and we've also had Pete. Yeah. Going up. With who was the other ones we had on? Oh, that's it. The Merseyside Ghostbusters. Thank you for coming on as well. Everyone, just it's been brilliant. I love to see everyone interactive in it. Pete's just gone. Real Ghostbusters is canon. And the episode is season 1, episode called Take 2. That's the one with the firehouse in studio. And this is the thing that I've read that one. This one here. They should use the Ghostbusters Awakening fan script. I've not read that. Has any of you read that?
No, haven't read that.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting.
It does, yeah. Ghostbusters collector, if you can send me a link where I can read that, I'd be interested in it. There was another thing that I really wanted to talk about as well, is did anybody manage to get the comic? Now,
Not yet.
Well, I'll save you the trouble. It comes with two. I've got both covers. Can you see that? Yeah, there's that one and there's that one. I have to say, this is supposed to link the two films together. The artwork is awful. I'm not joking. Yeah, I was reading it and I was thinking, who the hell has done that kind of artwork? It's just terrible.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
God.
It's the story is not bad, but the artwork is just not right. It's just awful.
It's just how it looks as if it's as rushed as the film.
Look at can you see that on the camera? Look at Winston. Look.
Oh dear.
Ooh.
Oh.
It's just what? Look at him.
Yeah.
Face that face. Look. Just there,
I,
look.
I would say a school child could do better, but that'd be insulting school children.
Oh, man.
I was just about to say it's like one of them information pamphlets you get at primary school to tell you not to play with matches.
Don't talk to strangers.
This I think look at Janine. Look at Janine. Look at her. Look.
Oh,
my God.
good God.
Yeah. I don't shame on Dark Horse Comics, you know what I mean? Because they usually produce some fantastic comics, but this one, I'm buying it for the covers. That's the only thing. I'm buying it for the covers. Peter says the comic is terrible and it's so simply drawn. Yes, it is. Yeah. You guys at the comics sometimes Lee, see you guys at Comic Con. Oh yes, it leads off. Yeah. Were you at Leeds Unleashed event last month?
I wasn't. No, I've not been trooping for a while because I've gone about education wrong way around. I'm actually doing secondary education now, so I've got a lot going on at the minute.
Yeah, but he's upgrading his kit, and once it's ready, he'll be coming out trooping with us.
Yeah,
now, I'm in the process of getting the Ecto Z together because I work for Mercedes-Benz, and I could have got a Ecto Z for the premiere, and I was going to get it all stickered up. I was going to get a proton packs put in the back, but I got let down the last moment because the cinema said no. Well, the cinema said yes, but the people who own the land said no. So I don't know if I can pull it together this time around because that one just dropped. You know what it's like, Fern, when you've got plans and they seem to be dropped. I'm hoping to get it all together for Stars and Cars, which is happening in April the 14th. So it's not too far away. And there's going to be no end of guests. There's going to be no end of cars. I'm hoping I can get Ecto Z ready to go down there. I'm open. Fingers crossed that comes together.
Or you could bring it to our immersive firehouse day.
It could do.
There you go.
I don't know if my trade plates will allow me to travel that far down. Unless
right.
But to be fair, I was kind of inquiring about buying a black Sprinter van because now it seems that anybody can have a Ghostbusters vehicle now if they got a Sprinter van. You don't just need to buy a Cadillac, you can buy a Sprinter van, a black one, and get it stickered up. Yeah.
And a motorcycle with a sidecar.
Yes. Lead said Mercedes missed a trick not having a van for sale details in the window at cinemas, easy stickers on the side and rear. That's exactly what I was planning. That's exactly what I had planned because the company I work for would have had their own banner next to it saying, you want to buy the van? Buy it from here. Bearing in mind that van that was in the film is actually in this country because it was filmed in this country. That American van is in this country, even though when they had the premiere, they said the one that was there was the screen used one, so they could have took it back. I don't know. No, I don't know. Right then, right, we're going on and on and on. Just one more from Leeds. There you go. I'm coming to Stars and Cars in full costume, so I'll have to come and say hello. Please do. If you see any of us, please do. And we'll gladly say hello. And hopefully, if I'm there, I'll have some stickers to give out. Because I've put them somewhere. Just can't find them. They're somewhere in this mess you see behind me. Anyway, thank you guys for coming on. I have to say thank you. Thank you for the chat. Thank you for coming on. I've got a bit of a spiel, which I will now read because it's pretty good. AI wrote it for me, just like they did for Madam Web. But this one's quite good. It says, thank you for joining us on Ghost Heads UK podcast for your ultimate destination for all things Ghostbusters in the heart of Yorkshire. We hope you've had a spectacular time exploring the paranormal with us. Connect with us across social media to stay in the loop. Search for @GhostHeads UK on Facebook, X, Instagram, and on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications to catch all our thrilling episodes, discussions, and exciting updates. And now look out for our new channel, Repossessed, on TikTok and on Instagram. It's good. I've got a real good one. It's taken me far too long to put it together, but I've got a real good one coming up soon. I hope YouTube, you've seen it, Repossessed. It's really good. It's on my TikTok channel. It's really good. Got something to share about Ghostbusters? We'd love to hear from you. Drop us an email at ghostheadsuk@gmail.com. Let's engage in captivating conversation and dive deeper into the realms of proton packs. Show off your love for the Ghost Heads UK podcast with our official merchandise available on TeePublic, which Peter has got, which he's rocking. And also complete your collection with stickers, mugs, key rings, and mouse mats. You could be the envy of all the Ghostbusters enthusiasts. Remember, iTunes remains the best platform to download our show. Take a moment to leave us a ghoulish good 5-star review. Your support fuels our passion and helps us reach more fans hungry for paranormal investigations and supernatural adventures. If you're watching us on YouTube, then please give that like button a good smack and hit subscribe to receive notifications of our upcoming shows. We appreciate your support and can't wait to bring you more hair-raising content. Don't forget to follow me at Jamie_R_Burns on social media for our latest updates. Thank you for being part of Ghost Heads UK podcast community. Stay curious, stay spooky, and remember, keep busting ghost heads. And that's pretty good. And all I put into ChatGTP was, might read something for the ending of Ghost Heads. You know, and they were like, yeah, no problem. And I was like, you're on. That's great. If I could put ChatGTP, whatever it is, on as a guest, I would. It's brilliant. Right then, guys, where can I've done my spiel. It's now time for your two spiels. Where can the lovely community find you? Fern, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I am on Facebook. Just my personal profile is fine because I just probably bore my friends who aren't even into Ghostbusters talking about everything Ghostbusters on there. And it's under, if you search Fern, and it's Sherratt, SHERRATT_Wells. Yes, I am one of those double-barreled names.
Yeah,
Don't
but
ask.
also, if you keep an eye out on the different Ghostbusters franchises, you often post on those as well as your updates for your Ghost House tour. Yeah,
I've also got a photography page as well.
Ooh,
I am a photographer by trade, and I do a lot of
we're always looking for good cosplay photographs, so that's a good one. Good one.
Yeah.
Any people want cosplay photographs? Fern's your girl to take some photos. Fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm on Fern's Photography 500.
There you go. See, it was there all along. Liam.
Just our page, mate. I'm a bit elusive on social media. I'm not the most massive fan of it. So, yeah, just our page, really. I float around on there on Ghostbusters forums and stuff on occasion.
Yeah, that's great. And of course, you can find me on all the social medias. I'm all over the place. So anyway, I would just want to give another shout out. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you again on the next episode of Ghost Heads UK podcast. Can I just say that when we click end stream, don't go. Yeah, don't click off. And I'll just speak to you just off after the stream. Okay. Right.
Yep.
All right, then, everyone. See you later. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.